What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
4 Shish. Chapter 81 The Drunken Bee *ch, Madara, is here. The power of the big demon. That's right, when the smoke cleared, everyone saw the lucky cat sitting on the ground not far away, drinking wine. While drinking, you can also enjoy the sight of the purple giant snake fighting the air. Well, good fight, the lucky cat raised its legs and swayed its short tail slightly, you are really strong. 35. Hiss. The giant snake has also reacted, and its body circled again, and spit out the snake letter to the cat, obtaining the information factor in the air. If it hadn't been able to speak, it might have already started cursing. After all, this cat is really cheap. Dude, Lucky Cat waved calmly, and said with a drunken smile, there's no need to be so angry, right? We're just meeting for the first time. Crack, crack. The gravel was crushed by the huge snake body, and the purple skin showed a steel-like hard texture. The giant snake expressed that he did not want to communicate with it, and the killing intent became stronger. Hey, the lucky cat sighed, I've seen too many people like you who are full of killing, and sometimes I really don't understand what the meaning of your existence is. The world it is in. There are also some such mindless monsters. These guys are really incomprehensible, eating, drinking, having fun, isn't it delicious? Goo, 990, beep, goo beep. The lucky cat poured the last bit of wine into his mouth, and then wiped his mouth full of pity. Why is it gone? Really, did you bring such a little bit? Boom. The next moment, the huge snake tail has been smashed. The ground cracked again, and cracks spread around. Hiccup. The lucky cat stood in the opposite direction and couldn't help but burp the wine first, then said drunkenly. Really, you should say hello first, I'm about to sing. When he is drunk, he likes to sing. An emotion called anger lingers in the giant snake's cold vertical pupils. Its culling seems to be played from start to finish. The huge power poured out again, and the snake body was crawling on the ground, and the speed was as fast as ultimate. Boom. There was a big pit on the ground, and the giant snake swooped in the air again. The lucky cat's reaction speed is incredible. Legend has it that cats have 7 times the speed of neural responses than snakes. I don't know if it is true, but the speed of the lucky cat at this time is indeed enough to play with the giant snake. Hee hee. The lucky cat stood not far away, smiling proudly. It's not enough just to have power, brother snake. Hiss. The giant snake coiled its body, its throat bulged slightly, and its mouth grew. In the next second, a large cloud of dark poisonous mist spurted out, rendering the air black. I go. The lucky cat's expression suddenly changed. You play yin to me. 39. The area covered by the poisonous fog is too large, and it is too late to escape. At the critical moment, in midair, a gleaming white light suddenly lit up. The figure of the lucky cat disappeared. Instead, it was a huge white fox. Yellow-green vertical pupils, cane-shaped red Madara on the forehead, and 2 red Madara under the eyes. The white shimmer formed a barrier-like arc, blocking all the black poisonous mist. Boom. The huge breath erupted, forcibly setting off a wave of air in the air, blowing the poisonous mist directly. Perfection. Madara, come. Since you've lost your mind, the white fox's hair rose slightly in the wind, and his voice was low and majestic. Then I'll help you free yourself. 35. In its view, this giant snake is just the product of a killing weapon. To die is a relief. In the audience, everyone's eyes widened. They stared at a cheap lucky cat and turned into a heroic white demon fox in a blink of an eye. Usopp took a deep breath and murmured in a low voice, this is the real big monster. The lucky cat from before was really not worthy of the word, big monster. The fighting spirit in Zoro's eyes rekindled. Just the breath, you can feel the power. This white fox has a proud posture and a powerful aura. 2 completely different creatures from before. It seems that the lucky cat that likes to drink and has poor wine is just an illusion. Chopper's expression also changed from being scared at first to now looking forward. Wow, so cool. It turns out that monsters are not as scary as they imagined. Just when everyone was emotional, the situation in the arena changed again. The white demon fox stepped on the air lightly and gracefully, and the huge demon power spread out from its body. The giant snake on the opposite side has been vigilantly coiled into a ball, and its wild instinct makes it feel that some kind of deadly threat is coming. The Madara, who was just a prey just now, has now turned into a hunter. But the giant snake, which was originally a hunter, became the prey instead. I can only sigh the wonder of the world. Saw. The sound of breaking through the air resounded. The figure of the white fox suddenly appeared above the giant snake, and a fox claw was pressed on the head of the giant snake. It looks like it's just an unpretentious tap. However, in the next moment, the head of the giant snake smashed directly into the ground as if it had been hit by 1,000 tons. With a bang, a large number of gravel pieces flew up, and a large pit was knocked out. The giant snake shook its head and lifted up from the big pit. Immediately afterwards, the white fox came again, and stepped on its head indifferently. Sure enough, you have no sanity, you are a product that was forcibly created. 5. It has broken the essence of this giant snake. Strictly speaking, this guy is not a snake, not even a creature. It's just a weapon that someone forcibly constructed, it's a fake. The giant snake didn't respond at all, just kept struggling, trying to fight back. Humph, Baihu snorted coldly. A thing like you is also worthy of fighting with me. 35. Saying that, its paws pressed lightly again. This is not only the control of power, but also has the support of majestic demon power. Boom. The pit in the ground became wider and deeper. This time, the giant snake did not get up immediately. It has been severely damaged and even briefly incapacitated. The white fox floated slightly in the air, and its figure floated into the air. So, in the air, the white fox lowered its head and looked down at the giant purple snake, and a cold light flashed in the yellow-green pupils. Welcome to destruction. The demonic power that seemed to be inexhaustible surged out. Blazing white light condensed in the sky. In the air, a circle of air waves pushed away all around. The world fell into silence, like the calm on the eve of a storm. That terrifying energy fluctuation can be clearly perceived even from a distance. This is the big monster. Moreover, it is still a big monster that is infinitely close to the realm of the gods. Boom. In the sky, a blazing white hexagram lit up. The terrifying demon power was vented down and turned into the power of destruction. Hiss. On the ground, the giant snake suddenly straightened up. The huge snake head carried a huge force and slaughtered towards the sky. It only knows how to kill and destroy. No matter what power it faces, it dares to fight back fiercely. Che la la. Like a hot knife cutting butter, like encountering snow covered by the blazing sun. In the dazzling white light, the huge snake body gradually annihilated, turning into fly ash and dissipating. There is no room for struggle. The strength that belongs to the big monster is undoubtedly revealed. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the scene in the arena suddenly paused. Chen turned his head to look at Chopper, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. After reading it all, how do you feel now? Have you made a choice? At this time, everyone in the audience recovered from that battle. I remembered that I was just watching the battle of the otherworld strong men in a fantasy world. Chopper blinked, confused. I don't know who to choose. This is quite normal. Several other people have watched the performance after the fantasy battle, and it is actually the same as it. Because any of the otherworld powerhouses here has incredible power. They are one of the most dazzling beings in a huge world. Not only powerful, but also have their own personalities and beliefs. If it weren't for the difficulty of training, I'm afraid everyone would say, I want it all. Sanji slowly exhaled a puff of smoke and suggested, if that's the case, it's better to choose the second one, isn't its template fit well with Chopper? Nami said flatly, I still think the first one is better. Also, although the difficulty will be very high, it is also very strong at the same time. 99. How cute is that slime? Cute and strong. In contrast, the lucky cat in the back, after knowing that it can't really attract wealth, has plummeted in Nami's psychological status. Luffy chuckled. I think the big white fox at the end is cooler. If only it came to my ship 1.2. No one cares about that. After all, Luffy has already said the same thing to several powerful templates. Zoro shrugged. For me, it may be more inclined to the Nine-Tails demon fox. 99. That kind of pure and powerful, undisguised power was quite attractive to him. Just follow your heart, Chen said calmly. But, Chopper scratched his head and struggled, I really want to choose the second one, but I think the third one is too strong. The life sharing of Jarias is very suitable for it. But that unpretentious fighting style is hard to leave a deep impression. After all, Xerneas is not the spirit of the main battle itself. It symbolizes peace and nature. But as a pirate, even a ship doctor will inevitably need to fight. Therefore, the pursuit of power is the nature of all pirates. As that so, Chen nodded slightly, then smiled. Let me help you formulate a special training plan. Chapter 82 The Rhythm of Life. The World Newspaper, The Miserable Blackbeard Pirates. In the audience, Chen raised two fingers. First obtain Xerneas' vitality, and then obtain chakra of the tailed beast. This is what he calls a special training program. The training of the system itself is only to acquire specific skills. It is never stipulated that you must get all of a template. That being the case, it might as well combine the two skills. In this way, it can be considered to satisfy Chopper's idea. How else? Chopper's eyes lit up. It not only wants the skills that share its vitality, but also looks forward to the powerful combat power of Nine Tails. Now I am satisfied at the same time. But it will be difficult, Chen shrugged. But, take it step by step, I believe you can do it. Chopper nodded heavily. Then, Chen clapped his hands. Okay, this illusion ends here. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the entire arena space seemed to be shattered directly. Everyone only felt that the world was spinning, and then they lost consciousness as soon as their eyes darkened. Then, Chen shouted in his heart. System, customize, train Chopper, and acquire Xerneas' life-sharing skills. First obtain the ability to share life, and then go to obtain the nearly eternal huge vitality. From easy to difficult. The next moment, the cold mechanical sound of the system resounded in his mind. Ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Tony Chopper. Close black lens bracket. Training goal. Acquire the skill, life sharing, of the nature elf Xerneas. Close black lens bracket. Training plan. Comprehend nature, plant O2 objects until you feel the rhythm of life. Close black lens bracket. On the deck of the Golden Mary, everyone was in a tumultuous circle, and their consciousness completely returned. The sound of crashing waves echoed in the air. In the distant horizon, you can vaguely see seabirds spreading their wings and flying away. The ocean breath mixed with the sea breeze re-entered the nostrils. Huh. Sanji took a deep breath, and then let it out, as if feeling a little emotional. I'm back. Every time you enter the fantasy world, it is as if you have entered another world. Although I knew it was a fictional fantasy, everything was too real. People will subconsciously ignore that it is an illusion. Zoro held the knife and sat on the side of the deck again. But this time, it's very interesting to watch. All the strong people are not human. The 4 otherworld powerhouses are all aliens. Watching their fighting style is also a lot for Zoro. Before, he only understood the fighting style of the strong human beings, but now he also understands the aliens. If you encounter such an enemy in the future, you can suffer a lot less. Well, that big white fox is really cool. And that slime ball, it's cute too. The Battle of Nine Tails scared me. Usopp, Wei Wei and Chopper are all excitedly discussing. It's like just watching a movie, and I can't help but discuss the plot, characters, etc. with people. Hey, 99. At this moment, Nami was alone and sad, and he was still thinking. It's a pity, that lucky cat, why can't it really be lucky? If that beckoning cat named Madara can really make money, she will definitely encourage Chopper to learn this fortune-making ability first. Right. Chopper also suddenly remembered something, and turned his head to look at the figure in black leaning lazily on the side of the boat. Lu Chen, what is my training plan? Lu Chen was actually quite dazed at this time, looking at the sky as if he was thinking about something. He looked at the rhythm of life written on the system panel, and only felt confused. What is this? How to operate it? It wasn't until Chopper called him that he regained his senses and turned his head to look. Oh, the training plan. Well, Lu Chen rolled over from the side of the boat and sat up. It's actually very simple. Your first stage training plan can be summed up in one sentence. That is to comprehend natural plants every day until you feel the rhythm of life. He left it intact and repeated the training plan of the system. Mainly, Lu Chen himself didn't understand how to implement this plan. Really, after listening to what Lu Chen said, not only Chopper, but others were stunned. Is this the end? Usopp asked uncertainly. It seems like. Zoro glanced at the Kaden Kyokutsu in his hand and felt familiar with the training plan. After all, his training plan at this time is also such a fantasy. To gain the power of Bankai, you have to let Zanpakuto's soul fluctuate and synchronize with himself. He still doesn't know what to do. Chopper scratched his head. The rhythm of life. What is a natural plant? Coincidentally, on this Going Merry, there is a plant. It was the orange tree orchard that Sanji planted exclusively for Nami. Lu Chen raised his finger and pointed to the orchard. Well, there are plants there. 99. Ah, Chopper turned his head to look over and pointed at himself blankly. That is to say, I will be facing these orange trees every day, meditating. It thought of Zoro. After all, Zoro likes to sit still and communicate with his 2 knives. Lu Chen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It should be about the same. Chopper blinked, a look of suspicion on Lusheng's face. A few days later, the weather was fine, and everyone on the deck returned to their previous state. Luffy sat cross-legged on the first-class seat at the bow and looked out into the distance. Zoro leaned in the corner, eyes closed, and caressed to Zanpakuto, as if performing some special ceremony. Sanji was doing squats with a cigarette in his mouth, counting as he did. Usopp lays out a pile of materials and is working on a new type of ammunition. Nami was sitting on a reclining chair as if asleep, but he was actually meditating. And Chopper, who is squatting in front of an orange tree, has a complicated expression on his face. Wei Wei also temporarily became a watchman on the ship, raising the binoculars from time to time to observe the sea surface. It can be said that everyone is working hard. Only Lu Chen leaned on the side of the boat with a leisurely face, enjoying the sun. Quack. Suddenly, a communication pigeon flew in their direction. This is a bird specializing in selling newspapers to deliver news, and it belongs to the World Economic News Agency. In front of it, there is a bag, which contains the current newspapers. After the communication pigeon landed, Lu Chen beckoned. I'll buy one. Saying that, he popped a coin. The communication pigeon skillfully caught the coin, took out a newspaper and handed it over, then flapped its wings and flew away. Lu Chen glanced at the contents of the newspaper. The title on the homepage is particularly prominent. Marine dispatches Admiral to hunt down the pirates Blackbeard Marshal D. Teach. Blackbeard's identity exposed, the truth is shocking. It was accompanied by a picture of Blackbeard's gang fleeing in embarrassment when they were besieged by Marine. In the following pages, the circumstances of this event are also described in detail. Blackbeard, Marshal D. Teach, was originally a member of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, one of the 4 emperors. After killing the captain of the 2nd Division, he defected. After defecting, this person hid in the first half of the Grand Line and all over the world, and has destroyed several countries one after another, including even the world government's affiliated country and the Drum Kingdom. And, Blackbeard has formed a new pirate group with 4 members as follows. Combatant, Fighting Champion, Giza's Badgers. Ship Doctor, Shinigami, Poison Q. Navigator, Devil's Sheriff, Lafayette. Sniper, Sound U, Van Oka. A few days ago, Marine suddenly gathered his troops, led by Admiral of Headquarters Aokiji, to encircle and kill the Blackbeard pirates. Finally, the Blackbeard pirates were besieged on Howl Island in the first half of the Grand Line. In this battle, The Blackbeard pirates were defeated, and the outcome of the battle is unknown, but there is information that Blackbeard Marshal D. Teach has escaped. 35. Naval Headquarters has raised Blackbeard's bounty to 700 million Baileys. Another vicious, big pirate is born. In the newspapers, the situation of the Blackbeard pirates is always recorded. It can be said that the Blackbeard pirates, who were originally unknown and extremely low-key, became famous all over the sea after this battle. Of course, this fame, compared to Blackbeard, is not desired. Interesting, Chen's mouth twitched into a smile. It seems that Aokiji still listened to what he said. Otherwise Marine's side wouldn't be moving so quickly. Even, the person leading the team is Aokiji himself, maybe Aokiji volunteered for this action. And after this war, Aokiji, and even the entire Marine, will be completely wary of Blackbeard. Admiral didn't even succeed in his own shots, and he escaped, which has proved how well Blackbeard's strength is hidden. Hey, that guy, I'm afraid he's overwhelmed now. Chen put down the newspaper. Marine's side, I'm afraid they won't give up so easily. 39. After all, a pirate who was strong and willing to endure for more than 20 years. Its ambitions can never be small. Such an extremely dangerous person, Marine may not be as serious as the deputy of the Four Emperors Regiment. This time, the other side. On the Grand Line, a secluded deserted island near the calm belt. A few people with injuries, tattered clothes, and bloodline all over their bodies are sitting around silently dealing with their wounds. The atmosphere seemed very depressing. Especially Teach, his face was terribly gloomy at this time, as if dripping water. This time, in order to escape, he suffered a lot of attacks from Aokiji. If it wasn't for Dark Fruit's ability to absorb injuries, he would have died many times. Even so, he was still in pain. Marine, how did the Admiral suddenly send out against us? Chapter 83. Blackbeard. Baroque Works, Clone Fruit Bentham. Uninhabited desert island. After Blackbeard's question was asked, the rest of them looked at each other. This is exactly what they are suspicious of. No one knew why Marine would suddenly target them. Lafayette said solemnly. It stands to reason that Marine's eyes should be mostly on the New World. We are hidden in the paradise, and should not attract so much attention. Van Oka repaired his gun that had been broken into 2 pieces, and said calmly, and this matter is very unreasonable, and Admiral was dispatched directly. Several people around nodded. Yep, here's the weirdest thing about it. It is understandable for Marine to take action against them. After all, they are pirates, and it is only natural that they are surrounded and killed by Marine. But what is incomprehensible is that as soon as there is a shot, it is Admiral. This is Marine's biggest trump card. In addition to dealing with the existence of the level of the Four Emperors, that is, the celestial dragons can only be dispatched when an accident occurs. Admiral, so to speak, is more of a deterrent. A deadly threat above all pirates. I usually stay in Naval Headquarters Marineford, which is the guarantee of the bottom of the press box and cannot be easily dispatched. However, this time, in order to encircle and suppress their newly established Blackbeard pirates, Marine even dispatched Admiral directly. Teach took off his tattered shirt and said gloomily, and that stupid bird. Dare to post Lousy's affairs all over the sea, don't let me catch him. I am talking about the president of the World Economic News, one of several emperors in the underground world, Morgans. The news channels of the entire ocean are all in the hands of Morgans. It can be said that that guy is the mouthpiece of this world. Also in the future, Luffy is regarded as the initiator of the 5th Emperor of the Sea. Lafayette glanced at Teach and shrugged. That old guy, it's hard to catch, even I can't catch him. Morgans, zone, bird fruit, albatross form ability. This old guy has offended countless people because he reports various news all the year round. Because of this, his concealment work is very perfect, and it is extremely difficult to find clues. Teach was silent for a while. We'll talk about it later, but now let's solve the trouble on Marine's side. After this battle, Marine's side will not give up easily. Because his strength has been completely exposed. Especially Aokiji who played against him. That guy was an admiral, this time without success, but it's not so easy to give up. All in all, Teach is now in a very confused state. He even felt as if the world was against him. On the sea. Sparkling in the sun. The Golden Mary broke through the sea and continued to sail forward. On the deck, Nami has finished his meditation and is looking at the chart in his hand. We are almost there, Alabasta. Usopp on the side added. Wei Wei goes back this time. The biggest trouble is a guy named Crocodile. He wants to take this kingdom. 5. This is what Wei Wei told them. Because Nami's previous entrustment was to ensure Wei Wei's safety. To this end, Wei Wei also promised to pay her a reward of 100 million Bailey. Zoro put away the Zanpakuto in his hand and said solemnly, Crocodile, that guy is one of the 7 warlords of the sea. 39. Chopper scratched his head. Shichibukai. That's right, Zoro explained, these are the 7 great pirates recognized by the world government, each with extremely powerful powers. Use pirates to rule pirates. The proposal of Shichibukai system is an attempt of world government. After all, there are too many pirates, and every year there are countless pirates sailing out to sea, and they are simply inexhaustible. So they wooed some of the powerhouses and gave them privileges. But correspondingly, these powerhouses also need to take on the responsibility of killing pirates. This is 7 warlords of the sea. There is worry in Wei Wei's eyes. Yes, Crocodile is one of Shichibukai and the hero of Alabasta, because he repelled many pirates that came. But that's just an appearance. Because behind these pirates, they are driven by crocodile. Sanji took a deep breath and nodded slightly. Is that a thief calling to catch a thief? In this way, to build a huge reputation for himself. This, sand crocodile, has ambition, city, and strength. No wonder he was selected as one of the Shichibukai. Furthermore, Wei Wei reminded, his subordinates also control a secret organization, the Baroque Studio, where the senior agents are all very strong. In addition, there are 2,000 ordinary agents. That's why I went undercover, to find out what crocodile really was. 99. In the Baroque Studio, there are more than 10 demon fruit powers, all of which are senior agents. As for those ordinary agents, there are even more of them. 2,000 people. Usopp's eyes almost popped out. Such a number of enemies can't be dealt with just by waving a fist. Take an inappropriate example. The 2,000 agents alone are already more than the soldiers of the Drum Kingdom, a country that is a member of the world government. Woo. Luffy raised his fist. Nami turned to Zoro directly. What is he talking about? Zoro covered his forehead and translated. He said, he just needs to beat that crocodile away. 95. What a joke, you blank brain. Nami punched Luffy's head. After dealing with Luffy, she clapped her hands and concluded. This time we have to deal with the 7 warlords of the sea, and we have to be careful. 99. Then, now the number 1 issue is another. Nami said helplessly. Our food is almost exhausted. At the mention of this, Nami's teeth itched with hatred. Actually, their food should have been plentiful. When they set off from Drum Island, the residents of the island gave them a lot of supplies with great enthusiasm. But no matter what, this guy Luffy is a complete greedy worm. It even took out Usopp, Chopper and others. At every turn, these people slipped into the storage bin to look for food. Ooh, if it wasn't for the gag, he might have wanted to whistle to hide his guilty conscience. Chopper and Usopp on the side, and even the walking duck, Kulu, all looked away at the same time. HMPH, Nami snorted coldly. In short, you must solve the food problem first. After speaking, she went directly back to the cabin, leaving behind a few people on the deck who looked at each other. After half a sound, several people all sat on the guardrail, holding a fishing rod in their hands. Woohoo, Luffy whimpered. Zoro, who was on the side, glanced at him and said with a headache, it's so easy to be hooked, fishing requires patience. In particular, these people have no previous fishing experience at all. Luffy turned his head in dissatisfaction, his eyebrows twisted, as if he had made a crooked idea. So, after a while, Luffy and Usopp jointly held a large fishing rod, and the bait on it became Wei Wei's duck, Kulu, and even closed its mouth thoughtfully. Backquote. Can you really catch sharks like this? Usopp looked at the sea suspiciously. Luffy on the side was very confident and nodded directly. Woohoo! Lu Xingya almost urinated in fright. Hey, what's ahead? Usopp shouted suddenly, pointing to the sea ahead. On that sea area, a large amount of steam rose up, obscuring the vision. And they are now sailing towards that area. Don't worry, 35 Lu Chen's voice sounded from the side. That is caused by the volcano below. Quote. Huh, Usopp turned his head suddenly. Fire, volcano. This is the sea. That's right, Lu Chen nodded. It's an underwater volcano, and these steams are caused by the upwelling of heat. When the volcano erupts for 10,000 years, a new island will form there. Up 10,000 years. Usopp's eyes widened. Rush in, Zoro reminded suddenly. Wow. The water surface was broken, and Going Merry rushed directly into the steam area. I can still hear Usopp scream. I can't see it. At the same time, on the other side of the steam area, a pink ship with a swan bow also rushed into the steam area. A sturdy man wearing a pink swan ballet costume and heavy makeup is sitting proudly on the seat. Come in for me. Soon, as Going Merry pulled away from the steam area. On the fishing rods of Luffy and Usopp, there was already a figure, holding the duck Kuru. Ah, nanos. Usopp and Luffy opened their mouths wide, staring blankly at the man in front of them. Lu Chen on the side couldn't bear to look directly and covered his forehead. He already remembered who this man was. Mr. 2 of the Baroque Works, Bentham, a ladyboy called Bentham of the Wilderness. Ah, the man in the ballet dress looked at them with a bewildered face. Why am I catching a duck here? Before he finished speaking, he had already let go and fell into the sea. Help, I'm a landlubber. Gollum. In the blink of an eye, only a series of bubbles remained on the sea. After a while, on the deck. Huh, Bentham let out a long sigh of relief. I didn't expect to be rescued by a group of strange pirates. Your great kindness, I will never forget the change in my life. Lu Chen walked in front of him and squatted down, looking directly at him, a scarlet blood-on rose in the bottom of his eyes. You, Mr. 2 Bentham from the Baroque Works Club. I remember, you seem to be a clone fruit person. Gollum. Bentham couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. I am. Lu Chen smiled slightly. Exactly, your ability is good and useful to me. Chapter 84 The Real Purpose, Robin, Pluton. Golden Apple, Restaurant Youth. Mold, clone fruit. What ability is that? Chopper asked curiously. Lu Chen explained casually. A devil fruit ability that can transform into other people's appearance. Oh, no wonder this man is a landlubber, Usopp nodded suddenly. Lu Chen's eyes have returned to the man in a pink tutu in front of him. Why don't you show your abilities? Under the gaze of the pair of Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, few could refuse his request. Bentham was horrified by these scarlet eyes, and smiled reluctantly. Okay, okay. The next second, his face had changed to Luffy's. That's it. Even the voice and body shape are very similar. Don't wait for Luffy and others to be shocked. His appearance changed again. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp. Even Nami was transformed directly. And together, and Nami's figure is perfectly reproduced. Boom. Nami's fist has been directly hammered on his head. Disgusting. Hurry up and change me back. Yes, yes, yes. Bentham reverted back to his original form, tearfully. Wait, Wei Wei suddenly thought of something. You said he was Mr. 2 from the Baroque works. That's right. Chen nodded calmly. Wei Wei's eyes suddenly became serious. Then this ability, isn't it very dangerous? He can disguise himself as anyone, including my father, Nefertiti Cobra. Once a wrong order is given by him, it will cause irreversible disaster. 9. The people around also frowned. Wouldn't it be troublesome if the person pretended to be any of them and misled others? After all, they have unconditional trust in their partners. This problem will not arise in 990, Chen waved his hand indifferently. In his pupils, the monstrous blood-colored patterns spun slightly. The opposite Bentham also had blood in his eyes, and he sat there blankly, as if he had lost his soul. At the same time, a burst of pupil power has poured into Bentham's eyes. Afterwards, he returned to normal. What's wrong with me? Bentham touched his face, his eyes full of confusion. It's okay, you just fell asleep suddenly. Chen patted his shoulder, got up and said, by the way, your ship seems to be coming to pick you up. Bentham turned his head to look, and on the sea, his own swan was heading this way. It's really. So, goodbye, friends who saved my life, your friendship will never be forgotten. Bentham waved his hand happily, stepped on the fence and jumped lightly, returned to his boat, and left quickly. All right. Chen clapped his hands and said it had been resolved. This is the end. Wei Wei looked at this scene in confusion. That's right, 35 Chen said with a smile. Starting today, Bentham will help us secretly and send my gift to Crocodile. Quote. The so-called gift is actually the pupil power that Chen poured into Bentham's eyes just now. When Bentham finds a chance to meet Crocodile, this pupil power will activate. Of course, this pupil power cannot solve the sand crocodile. After all, that guy is one of the 7 warlords of the sea. No matter how weak he is a veritable big pirate. Don't care about them, let's act on our own first. Narohara, this is the port city closest to the sea in Alabasta. It was very crowded and bustling. Golden apples, golden apples, golden apples that make you live forever. 5. In a booth, the boss was shouting hard. Suddenly, he saw someone dressed in black walking by. This little brother, very good looking, this is the first time to come to Alabasta. The boss held a golden apple in his hand and leaned forward with a smile on his face. How about it, do you want to take a look? This is a golden apple. Chen glanced at him and continued to walk forward. Wait, the boss was anxious. I'll tell you a secret, this is the secret treasure I found in an ancient ruins, just take a bite, you can live for thousands of years of dreamy golden apples. The corner of Chen's mouth twitched into a smile. If it really had such an effect, then you should be dead by now. He glanced at the golden apple in his boss's hand, and your apple should be sitting on the desk of the Holy Land Mariajoy, 5 elders at this time. 35. After speaking, Chen ignored him and continued to walk forward. The boss blinked, his face blank. Mariajoy. While walking, Chen looked at the shops on this street. It can be said that it is very lifelike. All kinds of vendors can be seen. Until he walked outside a restaurant, Chen's footsteps stopped abruptly. Oh. A fire-like aura burst into his perception. The next moment, he stepped directly into it. Sure enough. 35. In the restaurant, a figure was sitting at the front desk, enjoying himself. It was a young man with short black hair and a little Madara on his cheeks. Orange cowboy hat, shirtless, with a red beaded chain around his neck. A dagger was pinned to his left waist, and he was wearing black shorts. Of course, the most conspicuous thing is the purple tattoo on his back. It was a skull with a white beard like a crescent moon on it. One of the 4 emperors, the symbol of the Whitebeard pirates. Suddenly, the fork that the young man was about to put into his mouth stopped in midair. And his whole person was as direct as if he had suddenly died, and his head was buried in the dinner plate in front of him. What's going on? 35. What happened to that person? Difficult, is it dead? The people around, including the chef, were all startled, and subconsciously took a few steps back. Step. Chen walked behind the youth step by step. The young man suddenly got up from the dinner plate like a nerve reflex, looked behind him, his eyes widened. His heartbeat was extremely fast, and a sense of crisis like awe on his back covered his heart. As if standing behind him was not a human being, but a living ancient beast. Chapter 85 Fire Fist Ace. Smoker in anger. Inexplicable Chen. Who are you? The young man seemed to be still a little frightened, and pressed his hand to his heart. That feeling just now, he had only once when he challenged his father. It was a terrifying sense of imminent death. It was as if Shinigami's butcher's knife was already hanging around his neck, and he could be separated from his head just by cutting it off. What? It turns out that this person didn't die. Get up suddenly and startle me. Really, it's boring, it's gone. The surrounding onlookers shook their heads in dissatisfaction, and dispersed in all directions. People from the Whitebeard pirates, what are you doing in paradise? Lu Chen walked slowly, sat beside the cowboy hat youth, looked into his eyes, Portgas D. Ace. Or, Fire Fist, Ace, Luffy's brother. 35. Ace's pupils tightened suddenly, staring at the black-clothed youth in front of him. Who are you? The muscles on his body were tensing quietly, as if ready to take action. Me, Lu Chen didn't hide it, took a glass of water from the dining table, took a sip, and said leisurely, I'm just an ordinary pirate who has just gone to sea. 35. Neither Marine nor the eagle dog of the world government, you can rest assured. Ace's brows were deeply wrinkled, and her eyes seemed to say that you were lying to me, ordinary pirates. That's right, Lu Chen waved to the chef boss with great interest. Boss, serve me some food as well, it will be as good as his. Okay, Chef 35 nodded without hesitation. The cowboy hat guest fell down just now, and he thought he died suddenly. Now that I wake up, I can be considered a sigh of relief, so my mood becomes extraordinarily happy. By the way, Lu Chen turned to look at Ace. My captain's name should be familiar to you. Ace seemed to think of something. Who is it? Question mark. Monkey D. Luffy. After saying that, Lu Chen took the steak rice from the chef and started to eat. He also eats very little these days. After all, the ingredients that can be cooked on the ship have already been cleaned up by Luffy's greedy worms. No matter how good Sanji's cooking skills are, it is difficult for a clever woman to cook without rice. On the side, after hearing the name, Ace's expression first shook, and then became complicated. It's really that guy. In fact, after he heard that Luffy went to sea, he had been looking for it for a while. For example, in the Drum Kingdom, Ace has also followed Blackbeard's trajectory there. He even asked the people there to help tell the Luffy gang who might come later. But it wasn't until Luffy's group left the Drum Kingdom that people there remembered it, so they missed it again. Where is Luffy now? Ace asked aloud. Where? Lu Chen wiped the corner of his mouth. It should be here soon. 55. Oh, Ace raised his eyebrows. Then, I have another question. Why would a man like you follow that kid Luffy, and what's the purpose? He already knew from the breath judgment at that moment, that this person was probably exaggerating. The terrifying threat that seemed to be facing his father made Ace's scalp tingle. The specific strength is not easy to judge, but I am afraid it is also a monster. How could such an existence actually follow Luffy, the rookie pirate who just went to sea? Even if Ace was Luffy's brother, he didn't think the kid was qualified to recruit a crew of this caliber. Under Ace's gaze, Lu Chen just shook his head. I just selected him. To be precise, I think he has that qualification. Qualification. Ace frowned. What qualification? Qualifications to become a pirate king. Just when he was about to continue asking, a voice came from behind. Oh, captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, Fire Fist, Ace, you are actually here. A man with white hair and 2 cigars walked into the restaurant. On his back, he also carries the iconic weapon, 10 hands. It was Colonel Marine who was supposed to guard Logue Town, Smoker. Ace's head drooped slightly, the cowboy hat covered his face, and the corner of his mouth raised a smile. Well, it seems that he has encountered a troublesome guy. 35. Smoker looked at him coldly. So, what are you, the long-established great pirate, returning to this paradise, for? Ace patted the wanted notice on the dining table, with Luffy's smiling face printed on it. I'm just looking for someone. Really? Smoker slowly exhaled a breath of smoke. I'm looking for another pirate right now. To be honest, I'm not interested in your head. Ace spread his hands and said with a smile. If that's the case, then you might as well let me go. 35. Although he said so, his tone was unusually casual, and he didn't mean to beg for mercy at all. That won't work, I'm Marine. Smoker's words came to a sudden stop. His eyes were fixed on the figure in black who was eating with his back to him beside Ace. For a time, Smoker even ignored Ace. It's you. This person, he can't forget. Under the execution stand in Logue Town, the hand that grabbed his head directly through the smoke is still a nightmare. It was also the first time Smoker had experienced such a profound sense of powerlessness called despair. Long time no see, Lu Chen didn't look back, but a long voice came, Smoker. Ah, that's right, Smoker's eyes gradually narrowed, and his hand touched the 10 hands behind him. These days, he has been working hard to exercise and strengthen the development and use of the fruit's ability. Just to stop feeling the powerlessness of that time. Now facing this black-clothed figure again, his heartbeat couldn't help but start to speed up, and his hands began to tremble slightly. This is not fear, on the contrary, it is a feeling of excitement. The excitement of confronting a once invincible formidable opponent is an adrenaline rush. Ace on the side glanced at him inexplicably. Do you have any hatred between you? Why do you say that? Lu Chen wiped his mouth and said inexplicably, I just met him once. 99. He turned his head to take a look at Smoker's face, and raised his eyebrows slightly. What's your expression? The expression on Smoker's face at this point was extremely complicated. It was an expression of excitement, hatred, confusion, and a hint of disbelief. The whole face became a little distorted. A normal person would definitely not be able to make such an expression. This made Lu Chen a little suspicious, whether he had done anything inappropriate. Otherwise, it is just the hostility of the position, and there is nothing to be said about hatred. UB asterisk 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 D. Smoker's teeth rattled, and the 10 hands behind him slowly unsheathed. Zero. Ask for flowers. Just then, a loud whimper suddenly came from outside the restaurant. Woo. Immediately afterwards, before everyone could react, a figure crashed in at a high speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. Luffy. Boom. Boom. Luffy slammed into Smoker's back, and the two of them slammed forward into Ace's body, eventually smashing through the restaurant's wall. Ace and Smoker disappeared outside the wall, smashing through an unknown number of walls. Only Luffy sat blankly on the ground. This kid just turned himself into a rubber bullet. There's no question that Smoker and Ace have been a cushion for Luffy. Otherwise, he has no idea where to fly. Luffy saw the figure in black in front of the dining table with sharp eyes, and his expression became excited. Ooh. Hey. Chen reluctantly stroked his forehead and turned to look at the man in the chef's uniform who was frozen in place. Boss, make him a meal too. By the way, the quantity should be the same as the previous one. 5. I see. The boss, who is also someone who has seen strong winds and waves, forced himself to calm down and started cooking. Point 0. When normal people encounter these things, I am afraid they have already started to run away. After serving the food, the boss said hesitantly, "Little brother, are you really not running away?" 55. Escape. Why? Chen gave him a strange look. The two people just now were members of the Whitebeard Pirates and Marine, the boss said with a wry smile, your friend has already offended them. It's okay. Chen waved his hand and pointed at Luffy who was beside him, someone will help this kid. Tread, step, step. Outside the hole in the wall, footsteps sounded. Ace walked back with a displeased face, rubbing his shoulders while walking. Which guy hit me just now? He saw the straw hat figure sitting in front of the dining table at a glance. Boom. Smoker's hand rested on the back of his head, shaking him directly to the ground. Straw Hat, and Chen. In his eyes, there seemed to be anger burning. Today, I must arrest you. Jung. The 10 hands suddenly unsheathed, and a cold glow appeared in the air. Woo. Luffy was still using both hands to stuff food into his mouth, without even raising his head. Chen on the side was also calmly sipping a bowl of fresh soup. The food in this restaurant is really delicious. You guys. Smoker had a tic-tac-toe vein on his forehead. Obviously, he was ignored. The sound of breaking through the air resounded, and the 10 hands cut through the air and smashed towards the dining table. Luffy raised his hand in a daze, only to realize that he had been attacked. And Chen glanced at it and continued to drink the soup. Boom. A flame suddenly ignited out of nowhere in midair, blocking Smoker's path. Don't meddle. Smoker's eyes darkened, biting 2 cigars. Portgas da asterisk. That can't be done. Ace's figure appeared in the flames, with a smile on his face. I have to take care of this matter. Chapter 86 New Usage of Fantasy, Practical Training. Sir Crocodile. Boom. Billows of white smoke mixed with orange flames tangled in the sky outside the restaurant. Vaguely, you can still see the two figures in it are constantly colliding. In the restaurant, Luffy hurriedly swallowed the food in his mouth and looked up at the sky excitedly. Woohoo. I know. Chen on the side said lightly. That's your brother, Ace. Luffy grinned, then whimpered again. Woohoo. You have a lot to say to him. Chen nodded knowingly. But you can't speak now. Woo. Illusion. Chen touched his chin thoughtfully. It's not impossible. Luffy, sometimes he looks like a tough guy, but sometimes he's witty. In other words, his brain circuit is different from that of most people. Speaking of which, you reminded me that I really should develop some uses of the illusion, such as, let you do battle simulations and the like. Chen pondered and said in a low voice, you can't use the power directly acquired by training. How can you exert your best combat power without going through a battle with the power you suddenly acquired? The new equipment and new skills acquired by playing the game have to be played a few more rounds of 990s to become proficient. Some complex abilities even have to be used and practiced continuously in order to be thoroughly familiar with them. Suddenly, Chen had a new idea. On weekdays, Luffy and others can be allowed to enter the fantasy world for actual combat training. In the fantasy world, there will be no real injuries or deaths due to battles. At most, there is a problem with the mental state, which can be solved by taking a good rest. Moreover, during this period of time, he used to simulate the battle of the strong for Luffy and others, which has made him more and more skilled in the construction of illusion. It is not too difficult to build such an actual battlefield. At least, compared to the new world built by Infinite Tsukuyomi, it is many times simpler. For a while, Chen's eyes towards Luffy became more profound. Exactly, you guys, you are usually too energetic, find something for you to do. 35. Luffy was horrified by this look, and always felt that something bad was going to happen. Outside, in midair, the thick white smoke gradually separated from the orange flames. 2 figures appeared in the air. This matter has nothing to do with you. Smoker bit 2 cigars, his eyes solemn. Portgas d Ace. If you continue to meddle, I will see it as a provocation to Marine. 35. Who said it doesn't matter? Ace didn't care about the other party's threat at all, and said with a smile, the person you want to arrest is my brother. Smoker's pupils shrank slightly. So, for a moment, Smoker's brows furrowed. No matter how confident he is not confident enough to be able to deal with other people while dealing with a Logia-capable person. In fact, he wasn't even sure he could win the ace. Smoker, who is a Logia-capable, knows how difficult this ability can be. Woohoo! At this moment, Luffy's voice came from below, and the two looked down together. I saw Luffy waving and greeting Ace. Hey, Ace was amused. Hey, what's the matter with you, kid? You even sealed your mouth, so you wouldn't be afraid of not being able to control yourself to eat, right? After Luffy finished eating, he put the tape over his mouth again. He's practicing. Chen also came out and explained briefly. I see. Ace shrugged regretfully. I had a lot of things I wanted to talk to you about, Luffy. Since Luffy can't speak, he can only speak. Chen said, it's okay, I can handle this matter. I see, ha ha ha, Ace scratched his hair and laughed. Opposite, Smoker's face is getting more and more ugly, and his veins are constantly bursting. You guys, give me enough time. A large amount of smoke erupted suddenly, as if to cover the entire area. 1 or 2, do you think I don't exist? 35. In the roar, Smoker's abilities continued to run wild. The mental crit he received today is probably more than what he received in the previous year combined. But the next moment, in Smoker's sight, 2 blood moons rose into the sky. No, to be precise, it was a pair of scarlet eyes with blood-colored patterns slowly flowing. In just a split second, Smoker felt black in front of his eyes, lost consciousness, and fell to the ground from midair. Ace fell too, looking at Smoker blankly. What's wrong with him? Obviously still in the stage of power explosion, why suddenly fell to the ground? Could it be that this person, like himself, also has the ability to fall asleep anytime, anywhere? Oh, it's okay, don't worry, he's just. Chen paused. Well, just fell asleep. Well, 35 Ace nodded dazedly. So, it's your turn. Chen clapped his hands and looked at Ace. Huh, Ace looked up, his pupils shrank subconsciously. You. For a time, he only felt that the world was spinning, and the whole world seemed to be shattered. When he opened his eyes again, he was already standing in a dojo. The venue was very large, and the ground was covered with some kind of hard bamboo products. Where is this? Ace's eyes widened. Why am I here? He vaguely remembered that he looked at the guy named Chen. After that, he didn't have any memory. Until here. Don't be nervous. Behind him, Chen's voice suddenly sounded. You just came to the illusion I constructed. Illusion. Ace frowned. Do you have the ability? So what did you bring me here for? Chen waved his hand. Don't you want to chat with Luffy? 35. Ace. Luffy's excited voice also sounded not far away. In this illusion, he could finally speak unscrupulously. Ace turned his head and grinned. Yo, Luffy, long time no see. Since he went to sea 3 years ago, the two have not seen each other again. Hey, Luffy ran straight over. You guy, it's been a few years and still hasn't changed at all. Ace shook his head and smiled. By the way, Ace, Luffy scratched his head, how did you come to this country? Speaking of this, Ace's smile also subsided, and his expression became a little dignified. I'm here because I have business to do. Seriously, yes, I am now a member of the Whitebeard Pirates. 5. Chen suddenly interrupted Ace's story. You want to catch Blackbeard. How do you know? Ace turned his head, with shock in his eyes. Chen didn't answer him, but asked, didn't you read the latest newspaper? Newspaper. Ace frowned. I'm on a tight schedule, and Teach is so cautious, I have to go all out to track him down. 99. The implication is that he has no time to look at that thing. Then you can take a look. Chen handed out a piece of the World Economic News and handed it over. Ace took it with a bewildered face and stood there looking at it. The more he looked, the less calm the expression on his face. Just right, Luffy. Chen looked at Luffy. Take advantage of the time now, to perfect my idea. Huh, Luffy's face was blank. What idea? Practical training, Chen said with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Didn't you say that you want to help Wei Wei hit the sand crocodile? Ah, that's right. Luffy shook his fist. That guy, I'll beat him. Do you know how strong he is? Chen slowly paced the scene. Do you know what kind of fighting style he is good at? Do you know what devil fruit ability he has? Finally, do you know how to restrain him? Several soul questions were raised in a row, causing Luffy to be stunned. In the end, he simply broke the pot and said sincerely, I don't know, but I just need to hit him with my fist. What if you can't hit him? Chen shook his head. Crocodile is a Logia fruit power user and is naturally immune to physical attacks, so it's difficult for your fists to work on him. Luffy blinked, froze in place. He has never seen that sand crocodile, how could he know these problems? So, you can fight him ahead of time now, Chen snapped his fingers lightly. Hearing this voice, Luffy even subconsciously thought that there was another battle to watch. Where is it? He turned his head to look, and a figure appeared in the middle of the dojo not far away. It was a tall man in a black fur coat with a gold hook in his left hand. He has a big back, a long scar across his face, and an earring on his right ear. His temperament is quite the style of a mafia leader. This time, 1.2 is not about watching, Chen reminded. He's the crocodile you've been talking about. Crocodile. Luffy's eyes widened. Chen, did you bring him into the illusion too? Boom. Chen's face was covered with black lines. He couldn't hold back, and punched him directly on his head. Idiot. This is an illusion created by me to let you experience the battle with him. Understood. Luffy rubbed his head, and suddenly his eyes lit up. That is to say, I can beat him here, and after I go out, I can also win. Well, I can't say absolutely. Chen calmed down and said, after all, it's a desert outside, and it's Crocodile's home court. In the desert, his strength will improve. However, this effect will not be great. Because no matter the environment, if Luffy wants to win, he has to figure out Crocodile's weakness. As long as the master gets the guy's weakness, the problem won't be too big. I understand. Luffy grinned to reveal a big white fang. His left hand wrapped his right fist. I'll beat him. Chapter 87. Shocking Ace. Fantasy Battle. Crocodile's Power. In the fantasy dojo, Luffy warmed up by the side, and Chen walked to Ace not far away. That guy teach. Ace clung to the newspaper in his hand, his voice seemed to be trembling. You can tell how resentful he is for this name. That guy, escaped from Admiral. No matter how confident Ace was, he wouldn't think that he could match Admiral's strength. That is the existence that can confront the old man head on. But now, even when Admiral was dispatched, the Teach guy escaped. Even Ace can't imagine that Blackbeard Teach, who is usually harmless to humans and animals, can hide such terrifying strength. You must have lost all clues about Blackbeard recently, came Chen's voice. Ace looked up at him and said, that's right. 35. This is the reason. Chen pointed to the newspaper in his hand. After being besieged by Marine, Blackbeard must have become extremely careful and won't reveal his whereabouts easily. By now, Marine was probably still biting on the guy's tail. The main thing is that Aokiji didn't give up after the loss. He thought it was his responsibility to let Blackbeard escape. So at this time, Aokiji is also in charge of hunting down Blackbeard. Ace was silent for a moment. This is contrary to my purpose. What he wanted was to personally take that guy Teach to his father and confess his guilt. Chen slapped his mouth. You should know that you can't win against him. Even Marine led by Admiral was encircled and suppressed by Blackbeard. Oh, the strength of that guy is beyond doubt. Ace's eyes were very firm. It's not a question of winning or not, but I have to do it. 99. At this moment, Luffy over there has warmed up and started to enter. Forget it. 39. Chen waved his hands and said, we'll talk about this later, you won't be able to find them in a short time, so let's watch Luffy's battle first. Quote. Luffy, fighting. Ace turned to look, only then did he realize that at some point in the dojo, another figure had appeared. That's Sand Crocodile. Crocodile. A flash of shock flashed in Ace's eyes. Why is that guy here? He has a certain understanding of Crocodile. Not because of the title of 7 Warlords of the Sea. Rather, Crocodile had, like him, challenged Whitebeard. At that time, Whitebeard also wanted to recruit this crocodile, but Crocodile categorically refused. This is not a real, Sand Crocodile, Chen said with a smile. This is just an illusion constructed by me, have you forgotten, this space itself is my illusion. That means, Ace figured out, you want Luffy to fight Crocodile's vision here. Yes, Chen nodded. There will be no real injuries and deaths in the environment, and it is undoubtedly the best actual battlefield. This, in fact, Zoro has experienced. He also fought Kyoraku Shunsui in person while watching the Mirage battle. However, every otherworld character selected as a template is exceptionally powerful. The difference between the strength of the people watching is too great, and there is no practical significance at all. Until today, Chen finally perfected this idea under Luffy's reminder. So, Ace nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and said, Chen, why don't you join our Whitebeard pirates too? With your ability, Dad will definitely appreciate it. Stop. Chen raised his hand. The people I like are just Luffy and the others. He is the trainer and the most important thing is always potential. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, was certainly powerful, but he was old. A character from the old days. Potential has long been exhausted. As for Luffy, each of them has a very high future ceiling, and their potentials are all in an unstimulated state. There is no comparison at all. Hearing this, Ace shrugged. That kid Luffy, I guess it's similar to what you think. At this time, Luffy's energetic shouting, okay, let's go. Ton. His legs were compressed like springs, and then suddenly rebounded, and the whole person bounced directly to the center of the dojo. There, Crocodile was watching him fly indifferently. Idiot. Saichi. With the sound of breaking through the air, Luffy passed right through, and then hit the ground with a thud. What's the matter? He got up from the ground and looked back. Crocodile's upper body, except for his head, has all turned into dust. You can't beat me. Crocodile looked down at Luffy condescendingly. The two of us are not the same level of pirates at all. This is actually not wrong. Between the 7 warlords of the sea and ordinary pirates, there is no comparison at all. No matter how weak Shichibukai is, he can easily kill more than 90% of the pirates. Even Ace, who was watching the battle, frowned, his eyes slightly solemn. Logia sand fruit. He didn't know how Luffy was going to win. After all, he himself is a Logia fruit power user, and he knows very well how restrained this power is for Luffy. Just one elementalization can ignore countless physical attacks. Impossible. Luffy gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Rubber, bazooka. His arms stretched out in an instant, and his fists fell. Unfortunately, it is still unsuccessful. All that can be hit is the dust in the air. At this time, no matter how much strength you have, it is meaningless, because you can't hit anyone at all. Damn it. Luffy gritted his teeth. It's like this again. He thought of Lu Chen. When he was still in Windmill Village, when he met Lu Chen for the first time, he had attacked Lu Chen. It was the same feeling back then. Can't hit anyone at all. As if what he attacked was just a phantom. Of course, things are actually much better now. At least he knew why he couldn't attack Crocodile, because the guy turned to sand. What to do? What to do? What to do? Luffy's eyes rarely became serious, and he stared at the figure on the opposite side, which was mostly turned into yellow sand. His fists were useless. In other words, all of his attacking methods were useless. Even if the second gear is turned on, it is the same. Hey, finally recognized the gap between us, and then gave up. A sneer appeared on Crocodile's face, and he raised the golden hook in his left hand. Then, farewell, Desert Sword. On the ground, a series of sand splashed forward, setting off a long crack. What? Luffy hasn't reacted yet. Shit. 99. The sharp sand blade had penetrated through his chest. Tick tick tick. The wisps of blood kept dripping to the ground. It hurts. Luffy clutched the wound on his chest and fell to his knees slowly, saliva dripping from the corners of his mouth. Lungs were penetrated. The pain caused by this kind of injury is unimaginable for ordinary people. But Luffy has received Garp's iron fist since he was a child, and his tolerance for pain is absolutely unparalleled. Snapped. With his palm on the ground, he stood up tenaciously again. Rubber rubber. Stamp. 35. The right leg stretched out, stepped over the air, and kicked out towards the opposite side. It's useless. Crocodile charged towards Luffy, turning his body into yellow sand, ignoring Luffy's attack directly, and then got close. Crack. 35. Crocodile's outstretched right hand grabbed Luffy's head directly. Desert prison. Yellow sand diffuses. In just a few breaths, Luffy shriveled like a balloon. The water in his body has been sucked dry. Luffy. Ace's eyes widened, subconsciously wanting to shoot. Standing by the side, Lu Chen reached out and stopped him. Don't worry, this is just an illusion. He could bring Luffy straight back to his prime whenever he wanted to. 990. But, Ace calmed down a bit, but he couldn't help shaking his hands when he saw the scene on the field. Pat. Carlock Doll let go of his hand and let Luffy's body fall to the ground, looking down indifferently. A little pirate like you, are you trying to challenge me? It seemed to recall that he had also challenged Whitebeard ignorantly. He sneered. It's ridiculous, ants don't know how high the sky is. Saying that, he squeezed his hand lightly. A large amount of sand and dust suddenly filled the ground, wrapping Luffy in it. At this time, Luffy was unable to break free, and could only weakly cough twice. Cough cough. Crocodile turned to leave. Let's give you a funeral like this. Luffy. Ace stepped on his feet, and the whole person was about to jump out. Snapped. Lu Chen snapped his fingers calmly. With the snap of fingers, the screen in the dojo suddenly froze and then reset. What? Luffy screamed and jumped from the ground, his face full of soul. Am I still alive? Of course you're still alive. Lu Chen's mouth evoked an interesting smile. So, how do you feel now? 99. Luffy didn't regain his senses, reached out and touched himself. Really, I'm back to normal. He was sucked dry by Crocodile's move before. That feeling is simply unforgettable. It is no longer painful to describe. Anyone in that state can only wait quietly for the arrival of death. And often, this time is the most disappointing. He knew that he was dying, but there was nothing he could do. That guy, so strong. Luffy's eyes seemed to light up, and there was no trace of defeat on his face. So this is Shichibukai, and I will definitely beat him. Chapter 88 Weakness, Eroding Reincarnation. More and more powerful illusion. This is Luffy. Most of the things he doesn't take to heart at all. Even though he was killed by Crocodile just now, he did not have the slightest fear, but firmly believed that he could win. Luffy, Ace said with a frown, give it up, you can't win with Logia's ability. Luffy's fighting method, in fact, has always been very simple, that is, physical attacks. Plus, he doesn't even know Haki yet. Those who want to deal with Logia's ability are nothing short of fantastic. No, Luffy refused, of course. His eyes were very firm. I must help Wei Wei defeat that guy. During this period of time, Luffy has already regarded Wei Wei as a partner. For his partner, he will be willing to give everything to complete it. At this point, Luffy's heart is worthy of recognition. UB******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* to you. After seeing Luffy come back from the dead, he already knew how magical the vision was. Therefore, the worry about Luffy was put down. So, do you want to continue? Chen asked aloud. Ah, go on. Luffy smiled without hesitation. Only by defeating him can we save Wei Wei's country. 99. Okay. Chen nodded and snapped his fingers. Snapped. Crocodile, wearing a black fur coat, reappeared on the other side of the dojo. I'm up, Luffy yelled, charging up again. After half a sound. Ha ha. On the ground, Luffy lay upright, gasping for breath, and his eyes were a little blank. Died again. In all, he has died 5 times. Crocodile's ability is really incomprehensible to him. Ignoring physical attacks makes all of Luffy's attacks useless. At least, before learning the armed color, Logia's ability is a physical attack. Suddenly, Luffy rolled over and sat up. I figured out a way. His expression became excited. After these few battles, he discovered an important point. As long as your fist is stained with blood, you can actually hit that guy. It seems that you have found that guy's weakness, Lu Chen's voice sounded aside. Well, Luffy nodded fiercely and grinned, he's afraid of my blood. 35. Bam. A fist was stamped on Luffy's head. Ace put away his fist with a black line on his face. It's water. Idiot. That guy's weakness is water. After a few battles, even he already understood Crocodile's ability flaws. Is that so? Luffy rubbed his head, surprised. The next moment he stood up and laughed loudly. All in all, Lu Chen, call him out quickly, this time I will definitely win. The tone was full of confidence. Okay. 99 Lu Chen didn't refuse, and snapped his fingers again. In the dojo, Crocodile's figure reappeared. By the way, he was still standing in front of Luffy with a bucket of water. Ah, it's much more convenient to have this. Luffy lifted the bucket in surprise and splashed himself. Okay, it's on. Saw. The rubberized arm suddenly stretched, pierced through the air, and smashed towards Crocodile's body. It's useless. Crocodile sneered and turned into yellow sand. No matter how many times, you will only end in defeat. However, the next second. Boom. The fist slammed firmly on his body, making a dull collision sound. What? Crocodile opened his mouth slightly and looked down at his stomach in disbelief. The two fists carried a huge force and knocked him back abruptly. This time, even if he turned himself into dust, he could not avoid the attack. Cough cough. Damn. Crocodile squatted on the ground, clenching his teeth. Boy, do you think you can defeat me if you know my weakness? 55. Yellow sand diffused around his body, swaying in circles. An invisible force spreads. Crocodile's eyes widened, and the golden hook in his left hand waved violently. Shichibukai. Erosion of samsara. The yellow sand that filled the sky swarmed out, filling the entire dojo. Overwhelming. Unavoidable. For a time, the bamboo floors on the ground began to become dry and weathered. Luffy's body also began to gradually shrink. The moisture on his body is being sucked away by the yellow sand in the sky. This time, even the expression of Ace, who was watching the battle, became solemn. That guy, so does he still have such power? 35. This move, even for him, is not so easy to take. Definitely a crocodile's bottom of the box skill. People who can become Shichibukai always have their own advantages. Lu Chen on the side of 35 calmly said, just like you, haven't you been recruited by the world government? Thing. Ace raised her eyebrows and said nothing. Before he arrived in the new world, he had already achieved a great reputation with the title of Fire Fist. He was the truly well-deserved supernova pirate that year, and no one could compare to him. In this case, the world government naturally noticed Ace and gave Shichibukai's invitation. The result was also doomed, and he refused. It looks like Luffy is going to lose again. Ace looked at the wind and sand. This kid, it's still a lot worse now. That's right, a smile appeared on 39 Lu Chen's face. That's not necessarily true. Quote. In the sand, Luffy is getting weaker and weaker, and his eyelids can barely lift, but. Damn it, is it going to fall again? The water in his body has been gradually emptied. The whole person is like a deflated balloon, and it begins to dry up gradually. He. Crocodile smiled gloomily. Boy, stop struggling, you can't beat me. I don't know how many pirates like you I don't know how to kill every year. He gently stroked the golden hook of his left hand. Like a swordsman wiping his own blade. At this time. In the yellow sand in front, a piercing sound of breaking through the air suddenly resounded. Crocodile's pupils shrank slightly. What? Boom. A shriveled rubber fist pierced through the air and slammed into his face. Wow. Crocodile's body jerked back, spewing out a mouthful of blood. When he came back to his senses, his face suddenly became extremely gloomy. You be D. In the sandstorm, he could faintly see a dry figure standing in front of him with difficulty. A straw hat stands out. I will definitely win. Luffy gritted his teeth, and even though his body was dry, he still threw out his fists. Rubber rockets. Boom. The black fur coat flew upside down in midair. Crocodile was even knocked out by this blow, and fell to the ground in a daze. Snapped. The snapping of fingers sounded, the screen suddenly solidified, and then reset. Luffy suddenly jumped up from the ground, looked down at his hands subconsciously, and then heaved a sigh of relief. Wow, it's so dangerous, I almost died again. By the way, he suddenly grinned. I won. Ha 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 ha. He has died several times at the hands of that guy. I finally figured out Crocodile's weakness. It's just that even if the master had this weakness, Luffy almost lost again in this battle. There is no way, the gap between hard power is really too big. Over the years, Crocodile has used the sand fruit's abilities to perfection. He developed abilities with special effects like eroding reincarnation. Luffy can win, it can be said to be a fluke. If you are not careful, you will die directly in the endless yellow sand. Lu Chen clapped his hands and said, although you have mastered his weakness now, you must be cautious when fighting. After all, the desert is the home of the sand crocodile. 39. I see. Luffy nodded earnestly. He doesn't underestimate his opponent. Especially, given that this opponent has already killed him several times. In this case, underestimating the opponent, it is no different from courting death. Looks like this time my idea was successful. Lu Chen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. At least, if Luffy meets Crocodile, the odds of winning will be greatly improved. This proves that the effect of the actual combat in the fantasy world is indeed very good. In the original trajectory, the first battle between Luffy and Crocodile actually ended without the slightest suspense. If it wasn't for Robin's rescue, it is estimated that his story would have ended there. And now it's different. After several life and death battles with Crocodile, Nanos, in the fantasy world, Luffy's combat experience has become more and more skilled. It's hard to say who wins and who loses. Of course, the main reason is that my illusion is getting stronger and stronger. Lu Chen glanced down at his hand. At the beginning, the illusion he constructed was not enough to restore, or rather rigid. And now, everything about those characters can be built. In the follow-up, Luffy and the others can be arranged to continue fighting in the illusion to hone their combat experience. Today, Lu Chen mainly constructs two illusions. One is an arena for showcasing the power of those otherworld's true powerhouses. One is a dojo for Luffy et al. All in all, let's stop here. Lu Chen smiled leisurely and snapped his fingers. Snapped. The entire dojo space suddenly shattered, and Luffy and Ace only felt a darkening in front of them. The next moment, the consciousness of the two returned to the outside world. On the street, the loud clamor of street vendors came to my ears again. Back. Ace looked at his hands blankly. After all, everything in the fantasy world looks real. This made him a little confused about reality for a while. Chapter 89 The Devil's Son, Nico Robin. Please, do you a favor. On the street, Ace and Luffy stood looking at each other. As for Lu Chen, after the illusion was broken, he just disappeared. Cough. Ace coughed lightly. Well, Luffy, should you go to your companion first? Woo. Luffy nodded, and they both walked down the street together. Meanwhile, on the other side, Alabasta, rain. This is the dream capital of Alabasta, if only the only place not hit by drought. At the same time, it is also the site of one of the Shichibukai, Sir Crocodile. At this time, Mr. Tu Bentham, wearing a pink tutu, has returned to the base camp of the Baroque Work Club. He went straight to an office in the building and knocked on the door. Dong dong. Come in, came a woman's voice inside. Squeak. Bentham cautiously pushed the door open. Inside, behind the desk, was a huge chair. The chair was facing the direction of the door, and a slender figure could be faintly seen sitting on it. Miss. All Sunday, Vice President, Bentham smirked, I'm back. He reports tasks and can only report to the Vice President. All the agents of the Baroque Work Society have never seen the face of the President, Mr. O. It is the Vice President who is in charge of all affairs on weekdays. Your mission, completed. A dull voice floated from behind the chair. I. Bentham opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything else for a long time. Seeing this, the voice of the Vice President became stern. You should know the consequences of failing the mission, right? Feng 990 Clay began to sweat coldly on his forehead. I don't want to. Kakaka. The chair slowly turned, and the appearance of the Vice President was completely revealed. He has blue-black pupils, long hair, and a white cowboy hat on his head. Nico Robin. Vice President, my mission failed for a reason. Bentham hurriedly raised his head to explain. However, before the first sentence was finished, his voice suddenly stopped. In other words, Bentham froze in place. In his eyes, a touch of scarlet blood rose up. The pupil power belonging to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan poured out. Robin's pupils tightened suddenly, and his body tensed subconsciously. The next moment, when she came back to her senses, she was already in darkness. In the field of vision, everything else seemed to be faded away, leaving only a blood-colored light source in the whole world. Miss Nico Robin, first meeting. A voice rang out. Robin turned his stiff neck and turned his head inch by inch. I don't know when, beside her, a figure in black has appeared. Who are you? Robin asked with difficulty. Her whole body seemed to be exhausted, and even speaking seemed very laborious. Introduce yourself, the young man in black said. My name is Lu Chen, and I'm a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. What are you trying to do? Robin took a deep breath and tried to raise his arm, but found he couldn't. Even when she wants to activate the ability of flower fruit. I found that I can't even trigger the fruit ability now. Robin is at a loss now. She just glanced at Mr. Tu Bentham who came to report the mission. Then in the next second, I was in this darkness. This method, even with her knowledge, was unheard of. She is not just the vice president of some Baroque work club. Was also a member of the Island of Archaeology, Ohara. It is home to the world's largest number of scholars and the largest library, the Tree of Omniscience. Therefore, Robin's vision is far beyond that of ordinary people. Don't be nervous, Lu Chen waved his hand and said, I have no intention of hurting you, I came to see you just to ask you to do me a favor. Help. Robin's mouth twitched violently. You ask people for help, do you all do this in this way? 95. This, please, I'm afraid most people can't afford it. Lu Chen smiled noncommittally. After all, I don't like the way of doing things around the corner. Robin was silent for a moment. She had a general idea of what was going on. The person named Lu Chen in front of him is here to, please, help himself. If you do not agree, the consequences may be unpredictable. The only survivor of the Ohara incident, the son of the devil, Nico Robin, Lu Chen said leisurely. You are one of the few people in the world who can understand the historical text of the stone tablet. Robin's eyes dimmed slightly. Sure enough, this person came to find him most probably for the historical text stone tablet. She also knows that her greatest value is to be able to interpret the text of history. What do you want me to do? Robin asked hard. Chen walked up to her and looked directly at her blue-black eyes. Actually, you already guessed it, didn't you? Robin looked away. I don't know what you're talking about. Chen didn't care. Anyway, in this fantasy world, the most important thing was time. Itachi's Tsukuyomi can even turn 3 days into 3 seconds. He said unhurriedly. My purpose and that of the sand crocodile are actually the same, both for the Pluton, one of the 3 ancient weapons. It's just that the guy's ambition is to use Pluton to conquer the world, oh yes, and maybe revenge on Whitebeard. My thoughts are different. Chen paused and continued. It's not so much that I want Pluton, it's ACBC saying that I don't want other people to get it, especially world government. The last 4 words, his tone was biting heavily. Robin's expression also changed. The culprit who destroyed Ohara. These 4 words instantly reminded her of that catastrophic day. In order to explore the unknown 100 years of history, the entire Ohara suffered a disaster. The tree of omniscience was lit, and the islanders were driven from their homes and killed. Even Robin, who was only 8 years old at the time, was hunted under the name of Destroy 6 Warships. She even created a title of Son of the Devil for her to post a huge bounty. It's ridiculous. God knows how she destroyed 6 warships when she was only 8 years old. All this is just an attempt by the world government to cover up the 100-year blank history that was unfavorable to them. Robin's eyes were cloudy and uncertain, and for a while, he almost forgot his own situation. The corner of Chen's mouth raised a smile. As long as Pluton is still here, there is a risk of falling into the hands of the world government. Or do you think they don't have anyone who can interpret the text of history? Robin was silent, as smart as she was, and of course knew that. Once word got out that Pluton existed in Alabasta, the latter result is already predictable. Call. Robin let out a long sigh. You want me to help you interpret the historical text stone tablet of the Alabasta royal family and find Pluton? The tone was more of a firm statement than a question. That's right, Chen nodded. Robin frowned slightly. Do you know where that steel is? The crocodile guy has been planning for so long, isn't it just for this thing? In the beginning, his target was not Alabasta himself. Rather, it is the historical text steel and the information it records about Pluton. Of course I do, Chen said calmly. Robin hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly. Okay, you take me there. Very good, with Chen's voice falling. This dark world shattered like a mirror. The next moment, Robin's eyes flashed, and he had returned to the office, sitting on a chair himself. On the other hand, Mr. 2 Bentham fell to the ground and fainted. I'm back. Robin frowned, still a little lost. Suddenly, the space in the office distorted, and a space Uzumaki appeared out of nowhere. At the same time, there was that familiar figure in black. It's you. Robin pursed his lips, not acting rashly. That's right, it's me. Chen was not polite, and put his hand on her shoulder. Come with me. The space in the office distorted again, and the two disappeared together. The other side, in the cemetery of the Nefertari royal family. Space Uzumaki appeared, and 2 figures appeared together. Where is this? Robin couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. The royal cemetery. The strange way of rushing just now was the first time she experienced in her life. This ability is terrifying. Traveling through a different space and then returning to reality is like playing with space in the palm of your hand. Chen didn't take care of her, and looked at the situation in the cemetery with a pair of scarlet eyes. He only remembered that the steel was in an underground palace, and the entrance was in front of a certain tomb. Found it. Chen's eyes locked on a steel plate that could be opened. Obviously, there is the entrance to the underground palace. Let's go. Chen stepped forward and lifted the steel plate to reveal the downward entrance. It's really here. Robin's eyes flashed with complexity. How did you know? This information, the crocodile guy has been digging for 3 years, but he has not been able to dig it out. But he was directly found by the person in front of him. I don't know if the sand crocodile will go crazy if he finds out. Follow up. Don't stand still, came Chen's voice, and he went straight down. Got it. Robin took a deep breath, adjusted his mind, and followed. Chapter 90 Combat Power Rating. Pluton. Power enough to destroy the world. Nefertari Royal Cemetery, underground. This is an underground palace with a large area, so it gives a feeling of emptiness. And the most conspicuous of them is a huge stone tablet. It also recorded, carrying a series of ancient texts. Few people in the world know this kind of writing. Of course, there used to be many, mostly scholars on Ohara who knew this script. It is a pity that the entire Ohara has been ordered to be purged by the world government. The only survivor, Nico Robin, was by Chen's side at this time. Actually, really exists. Robin slowly stepped forward, reaching out and stroking the stone tablet with complicated eyes. Interpreting these historical texts is her greatest pursuit in life. It can be said that these steles recording the historical text are what Robin dreamed of. But now in this situation, she has some hope that she will not be able to decipher these ancient words. Let's start. Chen's voice came from behind. Well, Robin nodded lightly, and began to look at the inscription with a focused expression. Lu Chen took out a chair from the different space, sat on it, crossed Erlang's legs, and conceived and perfected his own dojo fantasy. The first is its use, which is nothing more than to hone practical experience. The second is the opponent's choice. It would be too troublesome if everyone had to arrange their own opponents for him when he entered the dojo illusion realm. And it's not always possible to pick the right opponent every time. In this way, it is better to directly grade the opponent and let the challenger choose the corresponding difficulty. For example, an opponent with a difficulty level 1 is an ordinary pirate who does not even have a bounty. Difficulty level 2 are pirates who are eligible to be rewarded. Difficulty level 3, with a reward of more than 1 million. Difficulty level 4, with a reward of more than 10 million yuan. At difficulty level 5, demon fruit power and hockey users begin to appear. Difficulty level 6, can skillfully use the fruit ability and hockey's opponent, corresponding to Marine Vice Admiral. Difficulty level 7, Shichibukai difficulty, of course, only includes the level of crocodile to Doflamingo, and the level of eagle eye is too much. At the same time, this level will also include many 4 Emperor's Regiment cadres. Difficulty level 8, the Emperor's deputy. Difficulty level 9, will be the Emperor. Difficulty level 10 and beyond, go straight to the exaggerated characters in Otherworld. For example, 6 Paths Madara, Gote 13 Captain Yamamoto Yuanyujai Shigekuni, etc., and even a bald man, Super Saiyan, and the 8 kings of the food world can be added. Exaggeration, of course, because this level is not used for actual combat at all. It's just a simple setting to let people experience the experience. By the time Luffy and the others were able to win even a level 9 general, they would no longer need any actual combat training. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen finally perfected the opponent selection for Dojo Illusion. At this time, Robin has also finished reading. How is it? Where is the location of Pluton? Lu Chen asked. Robin's eyes flickered. There is no information about Pluton on this. Oh, Lu Chen was delighted, with a playful smile on the corner of his mouth. Did you think of me as the crocodile guy? 2 scarlet blood-ons rose in his pupils, like 2 blood moons rising into the sky. The strange pattern slowly circulated in it, and an inexplicable and strange aura spread out. Robin held his breath subconsciously, cold sweat oozing from his forehead. She felt that the person sitting opposite was not a human being, but a blood-colored beast that was grinning. It seems that if one is not careful, she will be swallowed alive. Tick-tock, sweat dripped to the ground. Robin gritted his teeth, the pressure on her mind was so great that she was suffocating. Even though the person on the opposite side didn't make any movement, she felt that her spirit was being oppressed infinitely. I said, 33 Lu Chen calmly said. I am different from Crocodile, he wants to use this to satisfy his ambition, and I don't really need this thing. 99. No matter how strong Pluton is it still stronger than countless otherworld skills? He only needs to wait until Luffy and others train successfully, and he is already invincible. Even now, he can control oversized sea kings to temporarily simulate Poseidon. So Lu Chen's real purpose is nothing more than wanting to see the ancient weapons that can destroy the world in this world legend. The second is to ensure that it does not fall into the hands of adversaries. Whether it's world government or Blackbeard or something. If you let them get it, it will cause great trouble. Robin bit his lip, hesitating. Finally, she let out a soft breath. Okay, I'll tell you. After a while, north of Alabasta, in a desert. It is uninhabited here, because it is shrouded in yellow sand all year round, and there are sandstorms rolled up from time to time. To make matters worse, the weather here is also very hot, enough to dehydrate and heatstroke in a short period of time. Even the Alabasta people who live in the desert all year round will not easily come to this desert. At this time, a piece of quicksand was outside. It's here. Robin stopped, shielding his hands from the scorching sun in the sky. Under quicksand, Lu Chen looked at the area thoughtfully. It seems calm here, but it is a terrifying quicksand field. And the appearance of this kind of terrain actually means that there is an underground river beneath it. The so-called quicksand is actually a desert with an unstable foundation, plus sand with a certain amount of moisture. If someone falls into it, the more they struggle, the deeper they sink. No wonder it was chosen here, that is to say, Pluton is parked in the underground river below. 5. Lu Chen squatted down and pressed his hands on the hot sand. Earth-style Iwajuku collapse. The huge chakra suddenly poured out. Boom. The quicksand in the entire area began to sink, and even a huge Uzumaki was formed. Few people know that Obito's Earth-style ninjutsu skills are not inferior to his fire style. He also used Earth-style Tulongyan technique to help Deidara install blasting clay underground. Soon, the entire quicksand field disappeared, leaving only an empty Tianking that was bottomless. Robin on the side watched this scene helplessly, speechless. Let's go down. Lu Chen took Robin's shoulder and jumped down directly with her. Whoa, the surging sound of the dark river entered the ears of the two. You can faintly feel a dampness coming from below. But because it was too dark and there was no light, the vision of the two was seriously blocked. Lu Chen spit out a flame and suspended it in midair as a light source. The scene of the entire underground river caught the eyes of the two of them. Hiss. Even someone as knowledgeable as Robin couldn't help but take a deep breath and widen his eyes. This dark river is very wide, and there are shadows swimming through the river from time to time, which are creatures that have adapted to the environment of the dark river. Zero. Ask for flowers. But that's not the point. The point is, that behemoth standing on the middle of the dark river. It was a huge ship made of black composite steel, and under the light of the fire, there was a hint of cold luster. Just by looking at it, you can already imagine how strong it is. The bow and the stern each have a ferocious main gun with an exaggerated caliber. On both sides of the hull, there are 10 8-gate secondary guns with the same exaggerated shape. It can be said that this is an out-and-out terrorist war machine. Robin's eyes were slightly lost, and he walked forward slowly, murmuring in a low voice. It is rumored that the three ancient weapons have the power to destroy the world. Pluton, which can destroy an island with one shot, is known as the most ferocious battleship in history. It is jointly built by the legendary shipbuilders of the Seven Waters. Now it seems that the records in the ancient books are not false. 99. Snapped. Chen grabbed her. What are you doing? Robin glanced back at him in dissatisfaction, seemingly forgetting the horror of the person in front of him. Point 0. You can't get through. Chen pointed to the dark river. Robin frowned and turned to look at the dark river. The huge black shadows inside are gathering in their direction. Vaguely, you can still see a giant mouth and sharp teeth. It was an inexhaustible number of strange fish, each of which was at least a few meters long and could easily swallow a human. Due to long-term survival in the dark river, the eyes on the head have degenerated. Even so, the sound of the two Chen alarmed them. This is. Robin's pupils shrank slightly, and he took a step back subconsciously. If she just walked past like this, she would definitely fall into the mouths of these strange fish. The space was slightly distorted, and Chen had taken Robin across the space and landed on the deck of Pluton. He can deal with those strange fish, but it is not necessary. It takes a long time to deal with those monsters, and it is better to go over them directly. They couldn't have climbed up to Pluton, anyway. Pat. The footsteps of the two fell, colliding with the deck and making a crisp sound. Robin hurriedly lowered his head. Unbelievable, is the whole body made of this metal? 35. Although she didn't know what kind of metal it was, she could already see the horror of Pluton from it. Chen didn't stop, and walked directly to the cabin control room. I'm more interested in what power this big guy is driven by. This ship, which has no sails, cannot be driven by wind. It is like a unified war beast, and the difference between it and the general ship is too great. The door of the cabin is also made of this black metal, and it is tightly closed at this time, and a key is required to open it. However, Chen directly body hollow and walked in. Hey, take me, Robin shouted anxiously from behind. Chen waved his hand without looking back. There may be danger inside, you should stay on the deck first. 99. Robin stomped on the deck, but there was nothing he could do. It felt like she was guarding Baoshan in the air, but she couldn't get in, and her face was puffed up with anger. Chapter 91 Living Creatures. The meaning of living. Robin gets on board. Powerful straw hats. Control room. There is no joystick here, and no rudder whatsoever. The only thing there is a black steel ball floating in the air. And every once in a while, the steel ball expands and retracts, as if breathing. This ship. Chen looked at it thoughtfully. Is it alive? For the first time, Chen thought of the ship spirit. That's right, it was the ship spirit that was born when the Golden Mary was destroyed. But the difference is that the ship spirit is more like a soul, which is a very mysterious concept. And this ship is physically possessed of life. There is no such thing as a ship spirit. Chen raised his eyebrows. Could it be that those shipbuilders in the seven water capitals forcibly turned an ancient beast into this battleship? He is a reasonable guess. This kind of technology seems inconceivable now, but in the era of 800 years ago, who can say for sure? The Pluton, the most ferocious battleship in history, is far from being comparable to other battleships. One shot destroys an island. It doesn't sound like much, and it's not comparable to the ability of Poseidon to summon super large sea kings from all over the world. But you must know that almost every island on the Grand Line is a country. Similar to Alabasta, 990, Stan, it is even more outrageous, and there are tens of millions of people living on it. So, Pluton is not so much the destruction of an island in one shot. Rather, it is one shot that destroys a country. This is the power possessed by the three ancient weapons. This is also the reason why the world government is so afraid. All in all, this thing can't be kept here anymore. Chen shook his head slightly, turned and walked out of the cabin. You're finally out. Robin saw him. His eyes lit up. Can you bring me in too? Chen smiled slightly. No. Robin's face collapsed. I knew it. However, Chen continued. What I said before is indeed true. I don't need this thing to satisfy my ambitions. To find Pluton is just to eliminate a hidden danger. With the trainer system in hand, he does not need to rely on such foreign objects. Robin's eyes flashed. That's good. Chen turned to look into her eyes. What are your plans in the future? Having betrayed Crocodile, she couldn't stay in Alabasta any longer. Without Shichibukai's shelter, Marine's pursuit will strike again. The title of Son of the Devil, with a bounty of 79 million Baileys, made it impossible for her to live in this sea. I don't know. Robin's eyes became a little blank for a while. Now, she has even lost the meaning of living. O'Hara was destroyed, and she became a thorn in the eyes of the world government. Marine's endless pursuit is exhausting her mind and body. Crocodile's asylum is based on using her to obtain Pluton. Not to mention fulfilling the dream, interpreting the historical text and excavating the 100-year blank history, even surviving has become an extravagant hope. Want to come to our ship? Chen said casually. Our captain's goal is Raftel, and along the way, he will encounter many historical text stone tablets, just so you can interpret it. Are you on board? Robin's eyes gradually brightened. She nodded slowly and said, okay, I just want to supervise your use of Pluton. For a time, she seemed to have found a reason to continue living. The other side, civil unrest in Alabasta finally broke out. Under the leadership of the leader Kosha, the rebels attacked the capital of Albana. Luffy and others wanted to take Wei to stop them, but they were blocked by the Baroque workers. But unlike the original trajectory, the current Straw Hats are far too powerful. In the sand, death, exploding cactus star, slaying fire bird star. In the bursting bullet, a large number of thorns suddenly burst out. Another bullet exploded directly, with great power, blasting a huge pothole on the ground. Mr. 4 and Miss Merry Christmas who came to stop them lost consciousness and fell to the ground. It's over. Usopp smiled and wiped his nose. It's not in vain to practice for so long. It's amazing. Chopper on the side exclaimed. Where? This is nothing. Usopp's mouth is almost grinning to the bottom of his ear. By the way, let's go to the capital quickly. Wei needs our help. 5. Chopper hurriedly helped him and walked towards the king. In the battle just now, they were also injured, but the injuries were not serious. At the same time, in a street. Zilla. Current flashes. On the ground, a blue-haired agent Miss Doublefinger has lost consciousness. Opposite, Nami leaned against the wall and gasped, with a lot of bruises on his body. Really, if my training hadn't been interrupted by illness, I would definitely have won easier. She gritted her teeth and stood up from the ground. I don't know what happened to the others. This time, the agents of the Baroque Work Club came out in full force. Moreover, they are all demon fruit powers above Mr. 5. At this time, boom, the wall on the side was suddenly cracked, and the bricks flew, revealing a hole in the wall. Zoro came out of the hole with blood on his arm, and saw Nami at a glance. Are you all right? In his hands, he also carried two Kaden Kyokutsu, one long and one short. Of course I'm fine. Nami was taken aback just now, and said angrily, what about you? Looking at your appearance, you're not seriously injured, right? Zoro grinned indifferently. Hey, I met a good opponent. 99. His opponent is Mr. 1, the strongest person in the Baroque Work Club except Crocodile, who has the ability to dice fruit. After this battle, he not only comprehended and stabilized Jonao's meaning of cutting iron. The use of Kaden Kyokutsu has also become much more proficient. It can be said that the improvement is very large. Let's go quickly. Nami sighed. Wei's sighed. I don't know if we can stop the rebels. The two also walked in the direction of the royal capital. The capital, Albana. Kill. Overthrow the tyranny of the false king. 55. Damn it, rebel, don't get it. The rebels and the garrison, the troops on both sides have already faced each other, shouting and killing. Bleeding everywhere. Kill it, ha 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 ha. On a high tower, Crocodile in a black fur coat sneered. What a idiot in a skirt. Come on, my plan is almost fulfilled. 9. He just played a small trick, and played this huge kingdom in the palm of his hand. All the people believed that it was because of King Cobra's abuse of dancing fans that it didn't rain anywhere except the capital. Even better, the king seemed to know he couldn't explain it, so he didn't explain it at all. Eventually led to the emergence of the rebel army. Thinking about it, Crocodile suddenly frowned. That fellow Nico Robin, where did you go? The last part of the plan still needs the cooperation of Robin. At this time, he did not know that his home had been stolen. Suddenly, a crisp voice came from behind. Sure enough, all this is your conspiracy. Wei and Luffy came over from behind. It's you. Crocodile glanced back at the two of them indifferently. So what if you know? You can't stop me. Speaking, he even calmly took out a cigar and lit it. Let me teach you, little princess, once something like war starts, it's impossible to stop. Wei's face turned ugly. That's right, after the war started, both sides were already red-eyed. Even if she went to shout and tell the truth at this time, she could not stop both parties. Woohoo! Luffy whimpered loudly on the side, his fists raised, his face full of confidence. Wei's eyes are filled with worry. Luffy, can you really defeat him? Luffy nodded firmly. Crocodile's brows were slightly wrinkled. I don't know how tall the brat is, you are worthy to challenge me. He knew who Luffy was. After all, the information of the Baroque Work Club will eventually be reported to him. For a little pirate with a mere 30 million reward, to actually try to stop himself, it's a big joke in the world. However, at the next moment, Luffy's actions made his face stiff. Whoa, Luffy poured a bucket of water on top of him, drenching himself all over. So, Crocodile's face darkened suddenly. How did you know my weakness? For the first time, he suspected Robin. After all, only Robin knows his weakness. 1.2 Without a doubt, Robin betrayed him. What's interesting is that Crocodile's idea was right, but Robin had already betrayed him. But not because of telling Luffy about his weakness, but because Chen was forcibly betrayed. Woohoo. 35. As soon as Luffy stepped on his feet, the whole person flew over. HMPH, Crocodile took on the battle with a gloomy face. Don't think that you can defeat me if you know my weakness. Looks like I have to deal with you quickly and find the woman Robin. The battle between the two broke out suddenly. There was a loud crash on the tower. Below, the war between the rebels and the garrison continues. It can be said that the situation in the entire royal capital has become extremely chaotic. Boom. A wall of the tower suddenly burst. A figure in a black fur coat flew out. Countless people looked up in amazement and saw this scene. That's Crocodile. Chapter 92. Illusory Trial. I want to fight 10. 10 bald men are coming. Bam. In the muffled sound, Crocodile's tall figure fell to the ground, and the black fur coat was covered with dust. Cough cough. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, his face extremely ugly. Damn. That kid seems to be able to predict all his attacks, the other party can avoid in time, and even counterattack. What he didn't know was that Luffy had fought him to the death many times in the illusion. For Crocodile's fighting style can be said to be very familiar with, well aware of. This is Luffy's experience in exchange for dying again and again. Coupled with being wet with water, the elementalization of Crocodile lost its effect. That's why it's so dramatic. The dignified Shichibukai, who should have easily dealt with the opponent, was instead beaten away by a little pirate who only offered a reward of 30 million. So, is that really Crocodile? He was actually defeated. Unbelievable. Who did it to beat that Crocodile? The soldiers who were fighting subconsciously stopped their movements. This scene is really too shocking, making them a little lost. Woo. In the sky, a whimper sounded. Luffy jumped from the tower and landed on Crocodile's body, to be precise, his abdomen. Wow. Crocodile was directly smashed into a V shape, his eyes widened, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth. Luffy grinned, unable to speak, but that didn't stop him from being happy. Man. Crocodile's teeth were about to be shattered, his eyes were somber and terrifying. Stop looking down on people. Suddenly the long yellow sand filled the air. The ground began to dry and crack, and small cracks spread. Erosion of samsara. A series of yellow sand surrounded Luffy's body, constantly extracting the water from his body. If an ordinary person encounters this profound level of ability for the first time, it will be difficult for them to react. Crocodile really deserves credit for the extent to which sand fruit has been developed. But this time, the enemy he encountered was obviously not normal. Laugh. There was a sound of rising steam. Luffy's skin became slightly red, shiny, and steaming. The blood flow is accelerated, and the strength of the body is also strengthened. Second gear. Boom. 99. A solid punch slammed into Crocodile's body. The incomparably dull voice came out, and everyone around couldn't help shaking their hearts, as if a muffled drum had been hammered. For a time, even the yellow sand in the air seemed to fall into stillness. Crocodile's eyes turned white, his mouth bulged slightly, blood dripping from the corners of his mouth. This punch directly made him lose consciousness. Everyone's eyes widened. That Crocodile, who seemed to be too strong to be defeated, just lost. Wei Wei also took this opportunity to stand up and shout. Everyone, please listen to me, all of this is Crocodile's conspiracy, he and his Baroque work agency. For a moment, she revealed all these conspiracies. There was an uproar in the rebel army. Some thought the rebellion could be ended, but many thought their problems had not been resolved. Such as drought. Except for the capital, other cities in Alabasta have not had rain for more than a year. The entire kingdom was in an extremely dry situation. Even Wei Wei can't do anything about this, she can't control the weather. This chaotic situation lasted for half an hour. Sudden patter. Drops of rain suddenly fell from the sky. All over Alabasta, it has been raining for a long time. At this moment, all resentment and dissatisfaction seemed to be washed away by this rain. At this time, the shore of Alabasta, on a huge marine warship. A woman with long pink hair wearing a justice cloak was leaning against the door of the control room and said dissatisfiedly, "You are really messing around." She was Hina, Colonel Naval Headquarters, and Marine, who was also Smoker's contemporaneous classmate. Smoker sat in the main seat, biting 2 cigars, looking indifferent. I just did what I was supposed to do. That's right, this rain was caused by the dancing fans he released. Hina sighed. All in all, the most important thing now is to capture the Straw Hat Luffy's group first. Smoker glanced at her. If you want to catch it, do it yourself, I have something to do and won't be involved. Hina frowned. You are Marine. I'm Marine, Smoker said with a straight face, but what I want to implement is justice. Not Marine's rules. After saying that, he got up and left. Only Hina's face was full of helplessness. Ongoing merry. Chen was sitting on the edge of the deck blowing the sea breeze. In the distance, a puff of smoke billowed up, and several figures riding on the landing duck were approaching rapidly. Woohoo! Oh who! Came back. Luffy and the others rushed to the deck of Going Merry in a burst of wailing. Ah, Chen, you're back already. Usopp scratched his head. Luffy looked curiously at an unfamiliar figure on the deck. Ooh. Chen chuckled. Her name is Nico Robin, and she's an archaeologist. Nami thought, so, is she your new partner? In just a few dozen seconds, Sanji had already changed into a formal suit and stood beside Robin with a gentlemanly face. This beautiful lady, can I invite you to dinner? Robin smiled politely. Can you do me a favor? Sanji's eyes were almost filled with peach heart. Of course, as long as it is your request, I will satisfy it. That's good, Robin smiled. Please stay away from me. Snapped. Everyone seemed to hear Sanji's heartbroken voice. Woohoo, Luffy whimpered. He said he could sense that you're not a bad person, Zoro translated helplessly. Thanks for the recognition, 35 Robin smiled. Wait, Robin. Zoro suddenly thought of something. I remember that bounty, Nico Robin, son of the devil, with a bounty of 79 million Baileys. This wanted notice was posted all over the sea, and as a bounty hunter, it was impossible for him not to know. Huh, Usopp and the others widened their eyes and looked at Robin in disbelief. A person who looks so gentle and beautiful is actually the most wanted criminal with a reward of 79 million Bailey. That's right, Chen said, Robin is the last survivor of Ohara. After Ohara was destroyed, she carried this reward. After a while, he recounted Robin's identity. Although the tone was flat and there was no added fuel, it still made Nami and others feel righteous indignation. Woohoo, just because of exploring history, will you all be destroyed? It's too much. Don't worry, no one can hurt you here. You will be our partner in the future, and we will protect you. Finally, Nami concluded. From now on, Robin will be our partner. Set sail, set sail. It is good. Soon, Going Merry began to drive forward slowly. Suddenly, a slight shout came from the shore. Everyone. Take care. Everyone on the deck turned their heads to look, waved and shouted, hey, you also take care, Wei Wei. Wei Wei's eyes sparkled, and she murmured in a low voice, thank you. The next day, the sky was peaceful, and the sea was sparkling. Everyone returned to their normal state again. The exercise of the exercise, the meditation of the meditation, Robin also held a book and watched it quietly. It can be said that everyone has their own things to do. Suddenly, Chen clapped his hands. Snapped. For a time, everyone's eyes were attracted. Sanji exhaled a long breath. Do you want to choose power for Robin? He's used to it. Not only him, but everyone's faces were full of unfazed expressions. Only Robin was a little surprised. No, Chen said with a smile. Before choosing a power, there is a new illusion that you can try. Exactly, it can also allow some people who are too energetic to have a place to spend their energy. When 990 said this, he was pressing Luffy's head with a nuclear face. New fantasy. Zoro opened his eyes. Is it also related to the strong? Chen thought about it and said, to be precise, it is the place where you become strong, and it can be regarded as your trial. Get stronger, try. Zoro's eyes suddenly condensed, and flames ignited in his eyes. I'm starting to be interested. 5. Others were also curious. A fantasy that can become stronger. Chen smiled, and a touch of scarlet rose in his eyes. Then, let's start. Huge pupil power poured out. Everyone only felt that the eyes were dark, and when they opened their eyes again, they were already in a huge and empty dojo. There are no auditoriums, just a large enough dojo space. Wow, Luffy, who was able to speak again, grinned and shouted, I've been here before. 99. Have you been here? Nami on the side looked suspicious. On the contrary, Robin, who entered the illusion for the first time, did not panic at all. After all, she had experienced Chen's strange ability. Listen to me, Chen's voice sounded leisurely. Here, you can fight with different people at will. I divided the enemies into levels 1 to 10, with level 1 being the weakest and level 10 being the strongest. You only need to call out the level you want to challenge, and the corresponding enemies will be generated. 39. Fighting in this illusion, you will be automatically resurrected after you die. However, although you won't really die, it will deplete your spirit, so you can only resurrect 3 times a day, and then I will kick you out of the illusion. Finally, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Friendly reminder, don't challenge 2 strong opponents. Luffy took a step forward with a confident face. He smiled and said, so that's the case, then I challenge level 10, I want to hit 10. Everyone covered their faces. At the same time, 10 more figures appeared in the dojo. It was 10 bald men in yellow cloaks and a pair of dead fish eyes. Chapter 93 One Punch Man. An ordinary middle school student, Nanshon Kimu is here. In the fantasy dojo, Chen stood there and blinked. Are you serious? After speaking, he also turned his head and glanced at the 10 figures in the distance. For a time, Kakuzu only felt his eyes twitching slightly. Level 10 is actually just a vague concept. Because he stuffed all the characters above the Emperor level into this level. The weaker ones, maybe like Six Paths Madara, are not too exaggerated. Strong, even Super Saiyans may appear and play the planet directly as marbles. And this dead fish-eyed bald man in a yellow cloak in front of him, in a sense, is also a bug-level player. But more than that, Luffy hit 10. Hearing Chen's voice, Luffy turned back and revealed a big white fang, of course. 39. So, this is a 10th level powerhouse. Usopp on the side wiped his long nose and looked suspiciously. What did he see? A bald head with dead fish eyes and a strange costume. The temperament on the body is also mediocre, and it seems that it has nothing to do with the word, strong. Zoro frowned. I can't feel any strong character in him. What he felt was only salted fish, or salted fish. Even, he couldn't feel any emotion in this person. As if it was a stone, desire, fighting spirit, etc., everything was dead silence. On the other hand, Luffy, who didn't care about anything, even started to trot in place. Quick, I can't wait. 9. Chen was silent for a while, then nodded and said, then you go. Anyway, It's just a fantasy, and it won't really die. Chen continued. Step out of this area and you can start the battle. This area is the invincible area of the dojo, similar to the auditorium in the arena. He pointed to a black line not far away. As long as you stand within the range of this black line, you will not be affected by the battle. I see. Luffy rushed out confidently. Everyone also opened their eyes. Everyone is curious about the so-called 10th level difficulty powerhouse. In the dojo, the 10 bald men were also activated from a static state. Here I am. Luffy charged forward, fist stretched out and slammed into one of them. Suddenly, without any warning, a cloak appeared in front of Luffy. The speed is too fast, like a teleportation, and even the sound of breaking the air is not brought up. Luffy's pupils tightened suddenly, before he could even speak. A fist wrapped in red gloves kept expanding in his eyes. Vaguely, Luffy seemed to see a huge death word. Boom. A dull voice resounded in the dojo. In the air, layers of air waves continued to stack up and spread outward. Luffy disappeared in an instant. Only a bottomless pit with a diameter of hundreds of meters was left on the spot. At the same time, the screen freezes. Guru 1. I don't know who it is, but I couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Everyone stared straight at the bald figure that suddenly appeared in the dojo. Is this the enemy of level 10? The cigarette in Sanji's mouth was trembling slightly. Zoro's hand pressed on the hilt of the knife on his waist, but then released it again. The gap is so big, you can't see clearly. This is not the degree that hard work can overcome. But it can't even look back. It shouldn't be a dimensional existence at all. Nami's expression was stiff, and he turned his neck inch by inch, looking at Chen. 10 level powerhouses are all like this. Chen shrugged. That's not true, of course many of them are weaker than this one. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. That's fine. But there are even more outrageous than this one. For a time, everyone's expressions froze again. Chen looked at the 10 bald figures in the dojo and introduced Saitama, from the world of One Punch. 35. He unlocked his own limiter and gained the ability to become infinitely stronger. Of course, at the same time as he became stronger, he was also bald. As for his strength, Chen was slightly silent. There is no accurate upper limit yet. It is difficult to define their strength with existences such as Saitama who are invincible, directly from the setting. In other words, this kind of strength is difficult to truly digitize. Because if I had to say it, Saitama couldn't even fly, couldn't breathe, couldn't even eat. But he was able to smash the moon with one foot and bounce back from the moon to the earth. Oh wow. Suddenly, an exclamation sounded in front of everyone, and Luffy, who had disappeared, suddenly appeared not far in front of them. Obviously, this has been resurrected once. At this moment, Luffy was blank. What happened to me just now? He remembered that he just rushed towards one of the targets and raised his fist. Then a bald head appeared in front of him, and then there was only one fist left in the field of vision. After that, he immediately lost his memory. Everyone around 55 was speechless and didn't know how to describe it. I reminded you, Chen said, try to choose an opponent with a suitable difficulty, otherwise you will be wasting 3 resurrection opportunities in vain. Especially the 10th grade. Characters of this level are purely knowledgeable. Zoro pondered for a moment, then asked, so, how do we judge our own strength? 35. Chen spread his hands. Strength is a very broad issue, and it cannot be accurately digitized, so I can't accurately position it for you. It is best for you to try it yourself. It's like Jin, the deputy emperor, can push the big mom of the 4 emperors into the sea and lose his memory. Strength itself is a broad concept. Just like the thunder fruit capable person, Enel. Is he not strong enough? If you really want to rank, you should at least go to the Shichibukai rank of rank 7, right? But he was defeated by Luffy. And now Luffy, who has only mastered the second gear, if you really want to rank, it would be rank 6 at most, which corresponds to the level of Marine Vice Admiral, which is already a very high-profile result. I see. Zoro nodded slightly, then turned to look at Chen. So Hawkeye, what level is that guy probably in? His goal is very clear. From beginning to end, he wants to surpass that man and become the real world's greatest swordsman. Hawkeye. Chen raised his eyebrows. If it's other Shichibukai, most of them are at level 7, but Hawkeye, I ranked him at level 8. Level 8 corresponds to the Emperor's deputy. But in fact, the gap between the Emperor and deputy is also huge. Like Beckman, who claims to be no weaker than redheads. And Hawkeye is undoubtedly the best among them. Even, they are all qualified to be ranked in level 9. Level 8. Zoro frowned slightly, having a certain understanding of this difficulty level. Others also looked thoughtful. Zoro thought for a while and said, since that's the case, then I choose to challenge. Before he could finish his words, Luffy, who was beside him, suddenly interrupted by shouting, I still need to play level 10. 5. For a while, the atmosphere in the dojo became a little quiet. Everyone seemed to hear the crows quacking and flying over their heads. Backquote asterisk bang. Nami has already punched Luffy's head. UB asterisk 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 D. Listen carefully. Choose level 10, isn't it a waste of your resurrection times? 5. Luffy hugged his head aggrievedly and squatted on the ground. But I just finished it without feeling anything, so I want to give it a try. Compared to the people who have been watching the battle. He personally participated in the battle, but he had the least intuitive understanding of the so-called 10th level difficulty. After all, the only residue left in the memory was that fist that kept getting bigger. Therefore, he had no concept at all about the 10th level difficulty. You guy, even Zoro covered his forehead with a headache. He was ready for a tough fight. As a result, Luffy interrupted him, and the fighting spirit in his eyes was abruptly extinguished. At the same time, a new figure appeared in the dojo. It was a young man with pink hair, glasses, and two mysterious tentacles like arcade game sticks on his head. He was also wearing a rustic green middle school uniform. This time, everyone no longer made any comments. Although this person looks as unremarkable as the bald head before. Zero. But this, perhaps it is the characteristics, or commonalities, of these super spec powerhouses. Lu Chen's expression became a little weird. I don't know if your luck is good or bad, all in all, you should be able to clearly feel the opponent's strength in this battle. Shaking his head, he introduced Himunan Shong, a middle school student. To be precise, a middle school student with superpowers. Superpower. Usopp on the side was refreshed and asked again and again, what kind of superpower? Invisibility, teleportation, flying, perspective, or can you predict the future? When he was bragging before, he also boasted that he was a bull with superpowers. It can be said that Usopp is very longing for superpowers. Well, Lu Chen shrugged. He knows all of what you said, even just the tip of the iceberg. 35. Quote exclamation mark. 39 Usopp's eyes widened suddenly, his mouth slightly opened, and he stared blankly at the unremarkable, pink-haired middle school student in the dojo. Good. So envious. Hey, Luffy moved his arms. I'm going. His legs were compressed and suddenly bounced back, and the whole person flew out directly, heading towards the dojo. Starts when he crosses that black line. The figure in the dojo was suddenly activated. Huh. Himunan Shong turned his head and looked at the flying figure. Yahahaha, it's really troublesome wherever you go. 39. Chapter 94 Infinitely expanding amount of violence. Pain 6 paths is coming. Like a prophet, Himu Kusuo's body turned slightly to one side. Immediately, Luffy flew past him directly and smashed into the ground not far away. Boom. 35. A small gap opened in the ground, and Luffy's entire face was smashed flat on the ground. He put his hands on the ground, and finally pulled his head out of the ground with all his strength. This time, Luffy's eyes became more serious. You seem to be very powerful. Himunan Shong looked at him blankly. Your structure is quite special. 5. A. Human with a rubber-like texture. But this kind of special, compared to him, is nothing. At best it comes down to a new class of psychics. Then, let's get rid of you quickly. Shimyu slowly raised his arm. A faint layer of fluorescence surrounded his palm. That is thought power. To be precise, it is so huge that it is almost substantive. In the air, pieces of gravel were suspended out of thin air, which were lifted up unconsciously by the overflowing thought power. Boom. The ground sank abruptly, and Luffy didn't realize what was going on before he was slammed into the ground. As if there was an invisible big hand pressing down hard. Hoo-ha. Luffy's eyes turned white, and he opened his mouth to spit out a large mass of blood. This blow has exceeded his upper limit. And there is no sign, and even preparations for defense can't be done. Is it over? Himunan Shong slowly put down his hands and looked at the big pit in the distance. It's really a headache, my ability has become stronger again. Others dream of becoming stronger, but in his mouth it seems to be very disgusting. At this time, in the pit in the distance, a weak voice faintly sounded. Rubber rubber. Saw. A cracking sound rang out. A stretched rubber arm cut through the air and smashed towards the place where Kimu Kusuo stood. Huh. Shimyu frowned slightly, lowered his head, and avoided his arms. Click. Click. As if something was broken. Oops. Shimyu seemed to realize something, his eyes widened suddenly, and he quickly raised his hand to touch the top of his head. Sure enough, the two lollipop-like tentacles were smashed by that punch. 3. For the first time since his arrival, his complexion has changed dramatically. Damn it, careless, Chi-Mu's forehead was slightly sweaty. He was so nervous that he didn't dare to move at will, and his body froze in place. In the distance, the people watching the battle looked inexplicable. Usopp touched his chin and asked suspiciously, what's wrong with him? He beat Luffy half to death while standing there without doing anything, why is he looking like this now? Zoro also frowned. His breath makes me feel more and more strange. Chopper wondered, could it be that Luffy just hit him in the gut with that punch? No, Lu Chen sighed. He is very nervous now, and the reason for his nervousness is that he is afraid that if he moves, it will cause irreversible and terrible disasters. Huh, everyone turned their heads and looked at each other, their eyes dazed. Lu Chen explained. Those two tentacles that look like a lollipop are actually his superpower suppressors. Its role is to suppress Kimu Kusuo's increasing superpower. His ability is too powerful, and as time goes by, there is no limit to getting stronger. What's more terrifying is that the speed of getting stronger will also get faster and faster. ACBC. If this ability is not limited, he will soon reach the point of destroying the world with a wave of his hand. What's more terrifying is that after the ability has run away, Nanshon Kimu himself can't control it. That's why he was so nervous when those two suppressors were destroyed. Hiss. There was a sound of inhaling cold air around, and everyone's eyes began to become astonished. I've only heard of people who seek to become stronger. It was the first time I heard that someone would try their best to suppress themselves to become stronger. Nami slowed down and said. Thinking about it carefully, he seems to be quite pitiful, and his abilities are not under his control. Once it erupts, he may destroy the world with a simple move of his finger, and he will become afraid of nothing. The power of Berserk. Zoro's eyes were deep. At this time, the mutation in the dojo finally happened. Chi-Mu has been unable to suppress his own power, and an unimaginably huge invisible force permeates his body. Crack. The green glasses shattered first, freeing his dark purple pupils. Immediately after, a huge aura began to erupt, and it climbed steadily as if there was no realm. The ground of the entire dojo began to crack inch by inch, as if it could not bear such an existence. Chi-Mu gritted his teeth. Trouble. The suppressor was destroyed, and he immediately wanted to pick up its wreckage and use time backtracking to repair it. But at the moment when he was about to take a step, he realized that he was actually unable to move. In other words, his ability has completely run out. As long as he takes a step, he may teleport directly out tens of thousands of miles. Can't control it at all. As for the time backtracking, with his current terrifying power, I am afraid not backtracking the suppressor back to before it was destroyed, but backtracking directly to the material stage. All in all, he has no way to suppress his ability now. Hey, what's wrong with you? Luffy struggled for a long time and finally climbed out of the pit. As soon as the result came out, he saw Nonshon Kimu, who was like a great enemy. If you don't want to die, don't come near me, Chi-Mu said nervously, his eyes drooping, not to look at each other. Luffy scratched his head, turning a blind eye to the suffocating atmosphere on the field. Why? Chi-Mu was silent for a while. Can't you feel it? The threat of death. When his powers explode, the world will hear the call of death. But obviously, Luffy's brain circuit is different from that of ordinary people. He just nodded, then clenched his fist again. Anyway, I'm going. Chi-Mu was speechless and took a deep breath. At this time, he realized that from the beginning, he had never heard the voice of the guy in the straw hat opposite. Such a situation had also happened to another person he was familiar with, Rantangly. That guy with a blank brain like a paramesha. This person in front of him is simply a replica of the burning power. There's no way. Chi-Mu finally raised his eyes and looked at Luffy opposite. Luffy also looked over with a grin. In the next second, an inexplicable terrifying ability erupted. Luffy was about to step forward when he found that he couldn't move his feet. Looking down, his legs have been directly petrified. And this petrification is still spreading upwards. At the same time, everyone watching the battle widened their eyes. In the dojo, invisible superpowers erupted completely, like a beast that had escaped from the fence, and no one could stop it. Vaguely, they seemed to have seen visions such as volcanic eruptions, floods, and meteorites falling into the sky. An apocalyptic picture of disaster unfolded slowly in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone couldn't help holding their breath, as if the next moment, these terrifying natural disasters will really come. Crack. Luffy in the field is completely petrified. At the same time, the picture of the destruction of the sky and the earth was suspended. Until this time, everyone was breathing heavily and heaving a long sigh of relief, as if they had escaped a world destruction. This kind of power, it's terrifying. Zoro's eyes were complicated. Same level 10. The bald head before, gave people the feeling that it was not very strong. After all, it's just a punch, and the impact of the picture will not be so terrifying. Everyone will only feel incredible, but they are completely incomprehensible to that kind of power. But this man named Kimu Kusuo is different. The kind of rampant power that expands infinitely so that it can easily destroy the world brings an unparalleled impact. Impressed everyone. That kind of power can be summed up in one sentence: everyone must die. This is level 10. Sanji let out a breath of smoke and said slowly, only that idiot Luffy would be so reckless. An enemy of this level is simply not something they can challenge. Choosing level 10 is basically a waste of resurrection times. Lu Chen shrugged. It's been so long, haven't you understood the character of your captain? Luffy boy, it's always been like this. Just as he was talking, not far in front of everyone, Luffy had suddenly appeared out of thin air. Apparently, it was resurrected again. Moreover, Luffy's face was full of dissatisfaction. What happened just now? Why did I suddenly become petrified? It was obvious that he was about to hit the opponent. As a result, a petrification made him directly incapacitated. With that said, Luffy stood up from the ground again. I still have a challenge. Boom. Nami punched him to the ground with an unbearable punch, and the tic-tac-toe shaped veins burst out on his forehead. UB**************, D, give me enough time. An enemy of that level is not a challenge at all, but a simple death. I'll come. Zoro walked out step by step, the flames of war in his eyes blazing. I want to challenge, level 8. Lu Chen's expression was not surprised at all. After all, he ranked the Hawkeye guy at the 8th level. Soon, a new figure appeared in the dojo. And, not one, but 6. How could there be 6? Was it a mistake? Chopper exclaimed. After all, Zoro is different from Luffy, just one of the challenges. No, Lu Chen said with strange eyes. Yes, these 6 people are indeed just one person. A robe of red clouds on a black background. As well as the iconic black stick on his face, the identity of the other party has been revealed. Pen 6 Paths. Chapter 95 Zoro vs. Pain. Unrivaled Power. Heavenly Yaksha. Doflamingo. Interestingly, this time the summons only contain Pen 6 Paths. That is 6 clones. And Nagato's body has not been manifested. That is, he will only display the power of the 6 paths, and will not suddenly summon you a Geto statue. But correspondingly, if you want to defeat the opponent, you can only defeat the 6 paths one by one. Because there is no body present. But these are obviously not the need to consider now. After all, the gap between Zoro's current strength and the opponent's difficulty level 8 is still too big. Although he has already understood the meaning of the swordsman's cutting iron, after all, even Haki doesn't know it yet. Anyone. Usopp was stunned for a moment, then responded and shouted, "This is too rascal, isn't it?" Chen calmly said, "These 6 people, named Pain 6 Paths, are 6 clones controlled by a strong man using Rinnegan's ability. Rinnegan has 6 paths and Outlander abilities, and these 6 clones can use one of the abilities respectively. That's why I said that the 6 of them are just one person." Sanji spotted the blind spot. "So, it's actually 7 people." "No," Chen shrugged. "The body has not been manifested, so there are only 6. Tread." Zoro stepped forward resolutely, with the war intent in his eyes undiminished. 6, what a strong oppressive force. These 6 people were all wearing robes with black background and red clouds. His face was uniformly cold and indifferent, and he could not see the slightest emotion. The strangest thing is their eyes, which are a pair of purple pupils with patterns like rings. To be stared at by 6 pairs of identical bizarre eyes, anyone would feel terrified. "Call." Zoro let out a long sigh, then bit the word Hedoichi into his mouth, holding a Kaden Kyokutsu in each hand, and slowly walked out of the black line in front of him. Zoro, Luffy and the others stared blankly at his back. For a time, there was a sense of tragic and solemnity of, the wind is xiao 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 and yi shuihan. "Come on." Zoro took the last step, with his knives on his shoulders, and his whole body rushed forward. At the same time, there are still words in his mouth. "The flowers are chaotic, the flower gods cry, the wind is chaotic, the demons sneer." Kaden Kyokutsu. Shikai. A dark air flow suddenly lingered on the 2 knives in his hand. The real power that belongs to Zanpakuto is unleashed, and the sharp breath is creepy. Mito Stream. Shadow Ghost Tiger Hunt. The pitch-black huge slash fell from the sky with extremely fast speed. This move, which incorporates Kaden Kyokutsu's own abilities, multiplies its power. Ahead, the 6 paths Pain scattered, leaving only Tien Dao, who raised his hand indifferently. God, Luo, Tien, Zheng. The irresistible huge repulsion suddenly erupted, and an invisible sphere was pushed away. Whether it is dust or gravel, even air is repelled one by one. Boom. The pitch-black slash fell, and there was a dull crashing sound. Zoro's eyes froze suddenly, and he kept pressing down his 2 knives in midair. Unfortunately, his strength is still not enough. The terrifying repulsion pushed past him mercilessly, pushing him back inch by inch. In the end, the whole person was directly ejected. At the same time, the other 5 figures were not idle either. In the animal realm, there are already powerful summoning beasts such as Hell Crab, Hell 3-headed Dog, and Yagasaki Bird. Shiro Road even tore off his wrist, revealing the mechanical ammunition inside, and fired it towards Zoro. Hell Road, Hungry Keto, and Human Road directly blocked all of Zoro's escape routes. So strong. Zoro bit his knife and looked around with a heavy expression. Boom. A large amount of ammunition fell, and the fire burst into the sky. The smoke and dust filled the sky, obscuring the sight, and the gravel flew. The 3 summoning beasts, who are not afraid of death, and the 3 people responsible for close combat, rushed directly into the smoke. When the smoke cleared, everyone finally saw the battle situation. At this point, Zoro was covered in bloodline. The 3-headed dog of hell bit his legs tightly. Human Road is holding his left arm, and Keto is holding his right arm. The Hell Road stood in front of him and summoned a huge, prison Hell King. Cough cough. Zoro's mouth dripped a lot of blood, and he only felt that his eyelids were heavy. It's over. Hell Road's right hand rested on Zoro's head, and then twitched violently. The soul was extracted, and the huge, prison Hell, swallowed it in one bite. Immediately, the picture froze. The people watching the battle also came back to their senses. This battle, from beginning to end, only reflected 2 words, crushing. Even reminiscent of the battle at Sea Restaurant, Zoro vs. Hawkeye, is the same feeling. It's different from the previous bugs like Saitama and Seiki Kusuo, who couldn't even see the difference. The enemy this time, at least can see hope of victory. The space swayed, and Zoro's figure appeared in front of everyone again. But this time, after his resurrection, he did not communicate with others, but sat on the ground with his sword in his hands, closed his eyes, and began to review the battle. Usopp and the others looked at each other, but didn't make a sound to disturb him. After a while, Zoro opened his eyes and let out a long breath. A level 8 opponent is not something we can challenge now. Through this battle, he has already seen the gap between himself and Hawkeye. In other words, it was a glimpse of the power of Hawkeye's level. Although that kind of power is still far away from him, he has at least seen it. By the way, Usopp suddenly thought of something and asked, are there only otherworldly powerhouses here? No, Chen shook his head. The illusions of powerhouses in this world are also among them, it's just random. Like you, Luffy. He turned to look at Luffy and smiled slightly. If you're lucky, challenge level 9 and maybe meet your grandfather. 99. Ah, Grandpa. Luffy blinked, thinking of the iron fist of love. Immediately, his head shook like a rattle. What kind of luck is that? It's bad luck. 99. When he thought of the old man, he even felt a pain in his head. Others around me focus differently. 9. Level 9. Nami's eyes widened. Luffy's grandpa, how strong is he? Even Zoro looked surprised. Is he stronger than the Hawkeye guy? Whether it's the Pen 6 paths just now, or Hawkeye. He has really fought each other and knows how terrible these two are. This kind of existence is only ranked 8th, but Luffy's grandfather is actually 9th. Everyone was shocked. No one would have thought that this rash-looking straw hat boy would have such a powerful grandfather. 0. Ask for flowers. Luffy, Usopp couldn't help asking. Who is your grandfather? He must be a very powerful pirate. Is it the 4 emperors? 99. Huh, Luffy scratched his head. Didn't I tell you? My grandpa's name is Garp. For a while, the surroundings became quiet. Everyone looked at Luffy blankly. Until Nami murmured, no wonder you slipped so fast when you saw Garp Vice Admiral outside the restaurant on the sea. That's when they met a Captain Naval Headquarters named Iron Fist, Hobody. Chen summoned Garp's vision to scare the man away. That's when Nami and Zoro noticed Luffy's anomaly. But at the time they just thought Luffy was afraid of the legendary Marine. Even Zoro shook his head. Who would have thought that the dignified Marine legend Vice Admiral would have a grandson who was a pirate? 99. Usopp also wiped his nose. Since it's Garp Vice Admiral, it's understandable at level 9. Anyone from East Blue. It is possible not to know who Marshal Marine is, but never to not know the hero Garp Vice Admiral. 0. Because he is the patron saint of East Blue. Okay, it's my turn. Luffy didn't pay any attention to their discussion and stood up excitedly. I'm going to challenge a level 7 enemy. Nami sighed. You really don't teach a lesson, you have already wasted 2 resurrection opportunities. Luffy grinned confidently. Chen said it, level 7 corresponds to Shichibukai, I'm the man who defeated Crocodile. As soon as this sentence came out, people really couldn't refute it. Even Chen's eyes and Kakuzu twitched slightly, and finally he could only say one sentence, you were really brave. Not to mention the strength of Crocodile, which belongs to the bottom of the 7th class. God knows how much advantage Luffy took against Crocodile. That bucket of water directly destroyed the elementalization of sand fruit. Otherwise, Luffy will only be passively beaten at all. In the dojo, a new figure has been manifested. It was an extremely tall figure. He has short blonde hair, red sunglasses, a pink feather coat and cropped trousers, and a pair of pointed shoes. This image, no matter how you look at it, looks like a night scene veteran. That's. Zoro's pupils shrank slightly, already recognizing the other party. You know him. Sanji raised his eyebrows and asked. I am a pirate hunter, how could I not know such a character? Zoro said solemnly. One of the 7 warlords of the sea, Heavenly Yaksha, Doflamingo. What? Luffy turned back and said confidently, it turns out to be one of the Shichibukai, isn't that the same guy as Crocodile? As he spoke, he clenched his fist and waved. Look, I will definitely win this time. Zoro's forehead burst into blue veins. You guy, these two are different. Doflamingo, known as the king of the dark world, has the title of Joker, and is much more powerful than crocodiles, sand crocodile, now. Luffy pouted. Who cares, it's all Shichibukai anyway. Saying that, he has turned around and walked forward carelessly. Chapter 96 Luffy fights Brother Ming. Conqueror's Haki, Cruel, an ordinary pirate soldier. In the dojo, the figure was finally activated. I saw that he first moved his neck, and then looked at Luffy as he approached. Boyle, Doflamingo suddenly laughed. Boy, may I ask, what are you doing here? He clasped his hands and raised his chin slightly, as if enjoying a comical performance. Me, Luffy straightened the hat on his head. I'm here to beat you up. Sigh. Doflamingo burst into laughter while holding his stomach. After a while, his laughter gradually stopped, and he looked at Luffy in front of him with interest. Boy, I have to admit that your ignorance successfully made me laugh. 5. Saying that, Doflamingo raised his hand and pulled it gently, and a thin thread of silk was suddenly pulled up in the air. Then he sat up directly, and even crossed Erlang's legs. Come on, boy, show me a show, how are you going to beat me up? With that appearance, if there is no red wine here, maybe he would have to pour a glass and serve it. Luffy's expression remained the same, and he didn't feel that he was underestimated. Are you going to sit and fight me? Doflamingo tilted his head slightly. Should I be standing? Okay. Luffy didn't care so much, and clenched his fist directly. Then I'm going. There was no fear of 990s in his eyes. After all, in his opinion, Doflamingo is also Shichibukai, a rival of the same level as Crocodile. The arm suddenly stretched out, pierced through the air, and smashed towards the opponent. Snapped. Doflamingo sat still, not even raising his hand. Luffy's fist hit him directly in the chest. But it didn't make any movement, couldn't even make him move. If you look closely, you can see that there is a dark sheen on his chest. Armed color Haki. Boy. Doflamingo's eyes drooped slightly, his sunglasses reflected luster, and the corner of his mouth grinned. You don't even know Haki, you dare to challenge me. His tone was very casual, as if he was just watching a clown show. Hockey. Luffy retracted his fist, confused. What is that? He only knew that when his fist hit the opponent, it seemed to have lost its previous effect. In other words, it didn't hit people at all. Instead, it was more like hitting a piece of extremely hard steel. The other party was fine, but his fist felt pain. Boyle, so that's the case. Doflamingo waved his hand. Another little guy from Paradise, forget it, I'm in a good mood today, come and dance for me. Who wants to jump? Luffy was about to refute, but suddenly found that his hands and feet began to move uncontrollably. What's the matter? His eyes widened suddenly. I can't control myself anymore. Opposite. Doflamingo is holding out a hand, 5 fingers flicking gently. With his manipulation, Luffy actually started a dance on the field. What's going on? Usopp, who was watching the battle, couldn't help but ask out loud. Doflamingo's ability, Chen explained while watching the dance. He is a Paramesha string fruit ability person, and as for this trick, called Parasite String, he can manipulate other people's body movements. Zoro also asked, then why did Luffy's previous blow not cause any injuries? At first, he thought Doflamingo's abilities were more defensive. It doesn't seem that way now. Chen raised his eyebrows. That is Haki, the potential power possessed by all human beings, which can be continuously strengthened through practice. Haki are divided into 3 categories, armed, sighted, and conquerors. 95. That guy Dover is a rare user of Conqueror's Haki. He just used the armament color, which can greatly enhance his attack and defense capabilities. 9. Zoro frowned. This power, Crocodile, who is also Shichibukai, but doesn't have a master. Chen shrugged. No way, that, Sand Crocodile, relies too much on his Devil Fruit ability. After all, it is the Logia fruit known as the strongest of the 3 series, as long as it is developed well enough, it is also strong enough. He continued. But it is precisely because of this that Crocodile's combat power cannot be compared to Doflamingo's. 5. Both are Shichibukai, but the difference in combat power between these people is huge. Haki. Everyone looked thoughtful, snapped. In the dojo, Luffy suddenly fell to the ground. I'm tired of playing. Doflamingo got up from his seat and walked over to Luffy. He raised one foot, and a very malicious smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. So, goodbye, boy. The jet black armament color is attached to the feet, and you step on it. Boom. The ground suddenly cracked, and the cracks spread like spider webs in all directions. As the gravel fluttered, Luffy's figure appeared in midair, his fists clenched. Oh, Doflamingo raised his eyebrows, raised his right hand up, and swung down, dropping ruffian string. In each of his 5 fingers, there is an almost transparent thin silk thread, forming 5 forked silk threads similar to a leaf rake. Then at an incredible speed, Luffy went straight through. Even Yue pierced the ground unabated. Cough, cough. Luffy was suspended in midair by the silk thread, coughing up blood from his mouth. 5 extremely sharp silk threads have pierced his internal organs. The severe pain overwhelmed his brain senses in an instant. Boy, you're funny enough to break free from my parasite string. 55. Doflamingo's face was full of malicious smiles. Can you tell me how you did it? As he spoke, he deliberately put his ears close. Everyone watching the battle frowned. Nami shrank his neck even more. This person, likes and dislikes fun, makes me feel very uncomfortable. Zoro held the knife with a calm expression. This person can be said to be the worst person in the Shichibukai. The dark forces under his command spread all over the sea, and I don't know how many countries and towns have been destroyed. By Shichibukai, a name recognized by the world government. Doflamingo can be described as lawless. Its forces are tentacles, covering the New World, Paradise, and even the 4 seas. It can be said to be a black cloud covering the entire sea. Huh, Sanji exhaled a long breath. I have a hunch that we may become enemies with him in the future. Although I haven't met Doflamingo in person yet. But if you look at the leopard in the tube, you can already see its nature for the first time. Sudden, snapped. When they arrived, a voice sounded. While Doflamingo was playing with Luffy, enjoying that brutal pleasure. A rubber fist with bloodline slammed into his face. For a while, the smile on Doflamingo's face disappeared completely. It's all like this, can you still move? 55. He was not injured 0. But this kind of behavior is a kind of humiliation for him. I'm suddenly a little reluctant to let you die. Doflamingo grinned, grinning. I really want to torture you for a while. 99. It's a pity that a lot of blood has been lost, and this kid can't hold it anymore. Cough cough. Luffy's eyelids could hardly be lifted. One day, I will really beat you. Haha. Doflamingo sneered indifferently, then waved. Chuck, chuck, chuck. A thread of silk pierced the air again, piercing Luffy directly into holes. The breath of life immediately disappeared. Just when Doflamingo was about to make up for a few kicks, the picture suddenly froze. The next moment, Luffy, resurrected, in front of everyone again. What? As soon as he was resurrected, he jumped up from the spot. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Dozens of extremely sharp silk threads passed through the internal organs. That kind of pain is unbearable for ordinary people. Even though he has returned to his original state now, his brain nerves will not be able to recover for a while. Chen glanced at him. It stands to reason that your 3rd resurrection should be kicked out by me, but you have to help Robin choose a power template in a while, so you can stay here for now. He thought for a while, then added, but you are not allowed to challenge anymore. 35. Huh, Luffy said dissatisfiedly while stomping. How can it be enough for only 3 times? You must know that in these 3 challenges, the first 2 have almost no game experience. Everyone was speechless. You guy, just watch it honestly. Sanji drew another cigarette from the pack and lit it. It's my turn. 99. He slowly stepped forward. I want to challenge a 5th level opponent. Armed with the lessons learned from Luffy and Zoro, he decided to be more conservative. As Sanji's voice fell, a figure appeared again in the dojo. It was an unremarkable middle-aged man wearing a pirate turban. It can be said that there is no strong temperament in him. But everyone is no longer judging easily. Usopp pinched his chin and mused. Could it be another strong man? 35. Chen raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, no, this is an ordinary pirate from the New World in the second half of the Grand Line. In his strength setting, level 5 corresponds to some masters with Haki and fruit abilities. It is no exaggeration to say that this is a pirate soldier. But the 3 words, New World in his previous title are enough to elevate his status. In places like New World, things like Haki are no longer rare. There is a good joke. New World, any minion can Haki. In other words, none of the pirates who can sail all the way through the Devil's Channel of the Grand Line to reach the New World and still survive are good. Hey, ordinary pirates. Sanji's curly eyebrows were raised. Isn't the gap so big? Level 7 are Doflamingo's one-sided overlord, level 5 is a minor. The corners of Chen's mouth twitched into a meaningful smile. Just try it and you'll know. Chapter 97 First Victory. Robin's first shot, the extremely weird flower fruit. I'm not good at fighting. Shout. Sanji walked forward without noticing. Don't look down on people. I have been in Barati all these years, and I don't know how many pirates have been kicked. The Sea Restaurant Barati, also known as the Battle Restaurant. There are many pirates who go to make trouble on weekdays. In terms of combat experience, Sanji is absolutely not lacking. Not to mention him, even the people watching the battle actually had the same idea. The character who appeared in the front is the worst one of the dignified 7 warlords of the sea. An ordinary pirate is indeed very different from them. Usopp even shouted directly. Hey, Sanji, let's fight quickly, we still have a challenge. 9. Got it, Sanji waved his hand confidently, jumping out of the black line. At the same time, the pirate soldiers in the dojo were also activated. He looked at Sanji cautiously. Are you here to challenge me? Challenge. Sanji smiled. I'm just here to beat you. Really? The middle-aged pirate tightly wrapped the pirate turban that Tushin was wearing. Then, come on. Saw. The sound of breaking through the air resounded, and Sanji kicked at an extremely fast speed. Devil's Foot. The strength and speed are far beyond the level when he was still in the Sea Restaurant Barati. For such a long time, his exercise was not without results. This kick even brought gusts of strong wind, blowing towards the face. Boom. A muffled sound came out. The middle-aged pirate didn't change his face, his arms stood up, and he blocked Sanji's kick to death. What? Sanji's eyes widened suddenly. His kick to break through himself actually didn't have any effect. Taking a closer look, you can also find that the opponent's arm is wrapped in a dark O2 color. That's. Sanji retracted his right leg and his expression became much graver. Haki. 99. The people watching the battle also opened their eyes. Nami looked directly at the young man in black not far away, and asked, didn't you say, that's an ordinary pirate? Chen raised his eyebrows. I'm talking about ordinary pirates from New World. New World. Nami blinked. The second half of the Grand Line. Zoro also frowned slightly. Is the gap so big? Everyone knows about the sea area called New World. It is the kingdom of pirates, the heaven for the strong, and the hell for the weak. Even the world government and marine can't touch the place. In the land of chaos, there are no rules, the only rule is the fist. The first half of the Grand Line was dubbed a paradise by them, Chen explained lightly. The so-called paradise is a place where some children have fun. None of the pirates who can gain a firm foothold in New World will be good. It can be said that the gap between New World and paradise is no smaller than the gap between paradise and the 4 seas. Every year, the number of pirates arriving in the New World is overwhelming. But as a result, at least 90% were directly buried in the sea. Only a very small number of people can survive in that bad land. That's what makes them so powerful. Boom. 35. In the dojo, there was a sudden muffled sound. Sanji's figure flew out and smashed to the ground in the distance. Cough cough. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, then stood up on one hand, raised his hand to wipe the bloodline from the corner of his mouth. I have to admit, I underestimated you. The middle-aged pirate sneered. I don't know how many newcomers like you have personally sunk into the sea. On his arms, the dark armament Haki appeared again. Every year, there will always be a whimsical guy like you pouring into the New World. You who don't even know Haki, what do you do to fight those monsters? Boom. He cracked the ground with one foot and flew towards Sanji. Armament Haki not only can strengthen defense, but also strengthen attack. Huh. Sanji let out another puff of smoke, his eyes narrowed. I'm not one of those weak people who will fall on the way. He rushed forward sharply and crashed directly between the arms of the middle-aged pirate. What? The middle-aged pirate froze for a moment, hammering his arms towards the middle. However, Sanji suddenly lowered his body like a prophet, his legs raised. Devil's Foot first-class ground meat. A flash of light flashed instantly, causing the middle-aged pirate to look away by surprise. Then, the kick from his legs slammed into his head. Boom. The heavy blow even made people faintly hear the sound of bone cracking. The middle-aged pirate flew out directly, his eyes turned white, and his expression was out of control. When he landed, he fell directly to the ground and lost consciousness. Sanji took out a cigarette case from his arms, lit a cigarette again, and said indifferently, "It seems that your hockey app is not very good." 99. He found out while fighting. The opponent's armament hockey is always wrapped around his arms. Then use both arms to attack and defend. This also shows that the other party cannot freely control hockey to cover other parts of the body. So Sanji just fainted, avoiding his arms. Great. Everyone watching the battle shouted in surprise, finally won a game. It's not easy, finally the challenge has been successful. No way, the first few, each of them is unbelievably strong. Even Nami exclaimed, "Good job, Sanji." Miss Nami, Sanji's expression instantly broke, and pink peach hearts appeared in his eyes. "As long as you like it, I can win as many games as you like." Sure enough, this guy is still like this. Nami's mouth twitched. Soon, Sanji trotted back to the invincible zone to watch the battle. Okay, next one, Chen said. You should all have a certain understanding of the difficulty level, just choose the level that suits you. In this way, the improvement can be obtained. After finishing speaking, Chen glanced at Luffy who was sitting on the ground. This kid was looking at Sanji with envy, and he must have wanted to win. However, Luffy is too brave, and the difficulty is directly full as soon as he comes up. It is a typical negative teaching material. All come. 35. Suddenly, a gentle and mature female voice sounded. Everyone turned their heads, only to find Robin who had been ignored. Since she entered the illusion, she has not said a word, and after watching it now, she has finally completely sorted out her thoughts. It's you, Chen pondered for a while and said, to be honest, I always thought your abilities had great fighting potential. Thanks, Robin smiled. Miss Robin is an ability? Sanji asked quickly. He has a first-class passion for Nami and Robin. I am Paramesha flower fruit. Robin didn't hide it, he said with a smile. The effect is quite simple. It is to make any part of the body grow from any object like a flower. Everyone's face was blank, and they didn't understand the specific function of this ability at all. Robin didn't explain further, but walked forward. Actually, I'm not good at fighting, but after so many years as a son of the devil, I'll challenge level 5. Strictly speaking, Robin's combat effectiveness is not strong. She is an archaeologist and a civilian. But the ability of flower fruit gave her a lot of possibilities. At least, Chen is thinking, can Robin call so many hands, can they all be used to seal? If it could be done, wouldn't it be possible to turn it into a mobile ninjutsu launch turret? The only problem, may be the consumption of chakra. Soon, an ordinary pirate appeared again in the dojo. But this time, everyone no longer has the contempt. None of these pirates from New World should be underestimated, hockey per capita, really no joke. Then, let's finish quickly. 35. Robin brushed his long hair from his temples and raised his hand slightly. The pirate sneered and twisted his neck. Oh, it's up to you, little girl. As he spoke, his fists were covered with a dark armament color. As soon as you step on your feet, the whole person will fly forward. 6 flowers anchor flower, dropped with Robin's voice. Tread. The pirate's footsteps suddenly stopped in place, his eyes widened. What? Behind him, 6 arms suddenly grew out. His neck, arms, feet, his joints are all locked by his arms, and his body is constantly bending backwards, as if his jawbone is about to be forcibly broken. This sudden attack from 990 even made him so terrified that he forgot to struggle for a while. Not only him, everyone watching the battle was also taken aback. This scene is really too fantastic, and there is a hint of horror in the fantasy. What's the matter? Is it haunted? Chopper's teeth were trembling faintly, and his feet couldn't help but step back. A large living man suddenly grew several arms. Anyone who sees this kind of picture will suddenly be shocked. Not to mention Chopper, who is already afraid of these things. This is Robin's ability, Chen said with a calm expression. Flower fruit, you don't really think that there will be flowers growing. The ability of this devil fruit can be said to be very fantastic. And the upper limit of its effect is extremely high. If it is used well, it should have a very good performance. In the dojo, the pirate struggled hard, and a huge force broke out and broke free from the control of his arm. However, he did not fight back immediately, but looked at Robin cautiously. What a strange ability. As a pirate of New World, he is no stranger to devil fruit ability. He even killed the capable ones with his own hands. Robin smiled slightly and raised his hand. Then, 80 ring flowers 4 trees smite. Without any warning, an arm emerged from the ground out of thin air. In the end, a full 80 arms were generated and combined to form 4 giant arms. The pirates were surrounded by the center, and cold sweat was oozing out on their foreheads. Damn, what kind of ability is this? Boom, 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 boom. The giant arm slammed down heavily, cracking the ground. Smoke billows up. After the smoke and dust dissipated, everyone only saw that the pirate fell into the ground, motionless, and lost consciousness. Robin, win. At this time, everyone remembered what Robin said before he came on the court. I'm not good at fighting. Chapter 98 Robin's power choice, the gate of heaven is coming. Full head kill. When Robin came back, Sanji was the first to greet him. Hey, Miss Robin, you are so strong. Robin smiled politely and brushed his long hair on his temples. No, I'm just an archaeologist. You're humble. Sanji smiled and welcomed her into the invincible zone to watch the battle. Not far away, Chen also said, your ability does have very strong fighting potential. 99. The single arm that the flower fruit grows may not be strong or powerful. But there is one thing that is very powerful. That is, it can grow arms on anyone without reason. It even grows on any object, such as stones, trees, ground and so on. This unrestricted ability is simply a bug level. Robin spread his hands. Maybe, I really don't have any fighting ability. 35. At least, her development of fruit ability is really not very advanced. Chen waved his hands and said, it doesn't matter, when they finish the challenge of the dojo, I will take you to choose the power template. Pick. Power templates. Robin frowned, failing to understand. Chen is the trainer on our ship, Sanji explained quickly, as long as we complete his customized training plan, we can become stronger. After explaining it, Sanji concluded. So, in a while, Miss Robin, you will see a few battles of otherworld powerhouses. After reading it, just choose the power template that suits you. Robin pondered for a moment, then nodded, I see. Her eyes flickered slightly, the powerhouse of Otherworld, which made her very interested. In other words, she is more interested in the situation and history of other worlds. Soon. Follow-up Nami, Usopp, Chopper and others also conducted a challenge. Especially Usopp, his performance is even more jaw-dropping. Those heavily improved ammunition showed amazing power. Several kinds of ammunition made Chen slightly raise his eyebrows, surprised. It can be said that the current Usopp is far more powerful than he was when he first got on the ship. The hard work for so long has not been in vain. Hee. Usopp smiled with a bruise on his face, and couldn't help but lift his long nose. How about it, the great Captain Usopp has already said that I am very strong. Although he was chased by the enemy and ran around all over the field. But in the end the enemy fell under his ammunition. Sanji shook the ash. Yes, you are the strongest. 35. However, the perfunctory tone in his voice was clear at a glance. Okay, when you want to carry out trials and challenges in the future, I will open this illusion for you. As Chen spoke, he stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. As for now, let's solve Robin's problem first. Snapped. With the snap of his fingers, the dojo space in front of him shattered like a mirror. Just like changing a wallpaper, the next second, everyone is already in that familiar arena. In the auditorium, everyone skillfully found a seat. This is. Robin turned to look around. It's also an illusion created by me. Chen's voice sounded not far away, but unlike the dojo, the arena here is used to watch other people fight. To be precise, it is to watch the battles of the otherworld powerhouses. Then, he added, I have selected 4 sets of templates for you, and after you read them, let me know your choice. Robin was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, got it. This man seems to be more mysterious than she thought. Over there, Luffy and the others couldn't wait. Let's get started. I can't wait. Hurry up. I'm ready. Looking at their appearance, it is like waiting for the opening of a blockbuster movie. Even holding a bucket of popcorn in your hand will not make people feel inconsistent. Then, let's start. Chen snapped his fingers. Suddenly, in the arena, a figure came out of nowhere. It was a young man in a white elegant suit with short green hair, but the top layer of the short hair was dyed dark and turned to the left. Still holding a pen in hand. No matter how you look at it, this is a unique, artist, or a literary youth. Well, Usopp wiped his nose and commented. Another, unremarkable, powerhouse. The others on the side also nodded in agreement. It can be said that they have seen too many, ordinary, monsters from Chen. Especially in the dojo just now, the 2 10th level players that Luffy challenged were even more, normal. In the end, as soon as the shot was made, good guys, all of them were immortal level characters. So now they say they won't be fooled anymore. His name is Kishibe Rohan, and as you can see, he's a cartoonist, Chen said with a smile. Of course, just looking at him, he is indeed an ordinary person. Ordinary people, Elements noticed, Usopp and the others' eyes lit up. Could it be that there is finally a person who looks ordinary, but is actually very ordinary? This rare appearance of the same, instantly aroused their interest. Zoro covered his forehead helplessly. If you move your toes and think about it, you should also know that ordinary people will not appear here. That's right, Sanji replied, I can't let Miss Robin learn the template of an ordinary person. Chen shook his head and said, he is really just an ordinary person, the special thing is that he is a substitute. The so-called stand-in is a special power in the world he lives in. Accurately speaking, it is an image condensed by mental energy, which can display various special abilities. This thing, rather than being a stand-in, is actually better to call it a phase that is easier to understand. Everyone's stand-in has different abilities. Some can even suspend time, eliminate physical cause and effect, and so on. And the sure-do companion in front of him obviously has something unusual. Speaking, Chen waved his hand. In this way, you can see clearly. 9. Everyone looked up and saw a new figure suddenly appeared beside the literary youth. It was a very short figure, dressed in white, with a transparent hat, floating beside Rohan's shoulders on the shore. This is Kishibe Rohan's stand-in. Then, It's time to start. Chen snapped his fingers again. Snapped. Suddenly, the stagnant scene in the arena suddenly came to life. At the same time, a huge shadow was cast from above the arena. It was a giant blood beast with a size comparable to that of a whale. It has a single horn on the top of its head, strong limbs, 3 claws on its legs, and a tail that is not very long behind it. A mouthful of sharp teeth, one could not help but feel a chill in the heart. Roar. As soon as it landed, the blood beast opened its ferocious mouth and roared loudly. Straws of scattered blood energy pulled blood-colored threads in the air, drifting in the wind as if they were broken flows. An extremely brutal aura spread out. As if it's coming, it will be accompanied by rivers of blood, and life will be wiped out. Well, such a strong bloody smell. Kishibe Rohan covered his nose with disgust on his face, but there was no panic in his eyes. You guy, can you rinse your mouth and come again? 5. The blood beast obviously couldn't understand what he was saying, and a pair of scarlet eyes locked on the other side. To be precise, it locked the short white stand-in. That ant-like human, it didn't feel threatened. But this little white stand-in made its vicious beast instinctively alert. Of course, that vigilance didn't stop it from attacking. After all, it is a complete killing weapon, and everything is born for fighting. Roar. Quote. After a roar full of deterrent power came out. The blood beast has already lowered its body, the claws of its limbs are deeply pressed into the ground, and its eyes are locked on the prey. This action is very similar to the preparation stage before a lion fights its prey in nature. Sure enough, the next moment. Saw. The ground cracked and rubble flew up. The blood beast flew ahead at an incredible speed, turning into a blood-colored light in the air. The evil wind was blowing, and Kishibe Rohan couldn't help but raised his hand and covered his face. Such a behemoth swooped down. Not to mention the sharp teeth and animal claws, the weight alone could crush him to death. Suddenly, the huge body of the blood beast froze in midair. The short white stand-in had already squatted on its head at some point, with one hand pressing on the top of its head. Ying white light emerged. The next moment, under the incredible gaze of everyone in the audience, this huge blood beast suddenly shrank. Then it became a book. How could this be? Nami's eyes widened. Usopp also looked stunned. What about my big blood Nuo's beast just now? 99. Zoro frowned slightly. What ability is this? In the blink of an eye, a blood beast suddenly turned into a book without warning. What a ridiculous scene. Chen explained. This is Kishibe Rohan's stand-in, Heaven's Gate. It can turn the target's body into the pages of a book, and read its personal data and memory experiences from the book. This ability can even work on ghosts. Everyone on the side took a deep breath. What a weird ability. In the arena, Kishibe Rohan reached out and caught the falling book. This is an ancient book with a blood-colored cover, and there is a picture of a hideous blood beast engraved on it. Let me see what you are. Kishibe Rohan opened the blood book with great interest and read the words in it. Killing, destruction, blood. He couldn't even read it himself. Can't you put something else in your mind? This may be the shortest book he has ever seen in his life. Or rather, the simplest brain he had ever seen in his life. No experience, no thought, only a head full of killing. Chapter 99 Unreasonable Power. Heaven's Gate, control everything. Kishibe Rohan swears. In his life, he has read so many people's books. This is the only book where all experiences and thoughts are summarized in less than one page. All the following pages are blank. Everything about this blood beast made him feel inexplicable. But this blood book is bigger than other books in the past, and it seems to give people a sense of heaviness. As a result, when I opened it up, there were only a few words in total. Hey, Kishibe Rohan sighed with a headache. Why should I meet such a troublesome guy as you? Forget it, let's change it for you first. Speaking, he picked up the pen and wrote a sentence on the book. Do not hurt Kishibe Rohan in any way. After writing, he closed the book with a snap, as if he was very disgusted, and threw it out. Roar. The deafening roar echoed in the air again. The huge blood beast body appeared in midair, casting a shadow, shrouding the literary youth below. However, when the blood beast was about to fall, it suddenly froze, slammed its body violently, and threw itself to the ground on the side. Roar. Even the blood beasts who are full of killing are inevitably caught in some kind of awkward emotion at this time. There is no doubt that the action just now was made by itself. But the question is, it is clearly thinking about slaughtering the ant below, how can it move away by itself? Roar. The blood beast took a few steps back alertly, and a pair of scarlet eyes stared at the figure opposite, as if observing its flaws. Kishibe Rohan, on the other hand, was completely relaxed, and sat down on the spot with one hand resting on his head. Hey, big guy, give up, you are no longer a threat to me. Saying that, he tapped lightly on his knee with one hand. What I'm thinking about now is that you are so big, 003, how can I kill you? His tone was extremely relaxed, as if he was not afraid of angering the other party at all. Roar. After he finished speaking, the blood beast roared and charged again. A pair of sharp claws ripped apart the air and smashed with incomparable terrifying power. Saw. Under the strong wind pressure, the dust was rolled up. However, before the sharp claws of the blood beast stabbed, it suddenly retracted its force and stopped its claws in midair. Haha. Kishibe Rohan didn't even blink his eyes, instead he smiled and reached out to touch the sharp claws of the blood beast. He also commented with words in his mouth. Tisk tisk, you are really a natural fighting creature, you can see that the lethality must be very strong. Roar. A low roar came from the throat of the blood beast. It opened its huge mouth again as if not believing in evil, and took a bite. Then, it stopped in midair. This time Kishibe Rohan directly covered her nose. Shut up. You be asterisk 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 D, your mouth is full of blood. 35. Kick, kick, kick. The blood beast kept retreating, and the beast's claws stepped into deep pits on the ground. After retreating, it shook its head fiercely, as if to wake itself up. In the audience, everyone didn't ask any more questions, and directly looked at Lu Chen with a pair of curious eyes. Lu Chen raised his eyebrows and explained, this is one of the abilities of Heaven's Gate. 9. As long as the order is written on the pages of that book, the person to whom the order is written cannot be disobeyed. Of course, this control is limited to the body, not the mind. Sigh. Everyone took a deep breath. This is already very scary, okay. Turn someone else into a book, and then go directly to other people's experiences, memories, thoughts. Later, you can even write your own orders in the book, turning the other party into a puppet you control. This kind of ability, just listening to it, has an extremely strange feeling blowing towards the face. More than that, Lu Chen continued. The order written by this thing, even if the other party can't do it, will be enforced, and even people will directly ignore the laws of physics. 99. Like making an average person's body fly backwards at 70 yards and so on. No doubt, this is a very scary ability. There's even some kind of rule involved. By the way, Lu Chen added, he can also tear off the pages on the book. Tearing off a page will cause the corresponding person to be lighter and less powerful, but the appearance will remain the same. This is the stand-in, Heaven's Gate. An astonishingly powerful stand-in. The expressions of everyone in the surrounding auditorium gradually became shocked, and they stared blankly at the ordinary, literary youth in the arena. Usopp even murmured in a low voice, sure enough, these seemingly ordinary people are all monsters. The eyes of Nami, Chopper, etc. are the same. Only Robin, she looked at Kishibe Rohan with burning eyes. Book. This ability seems to have hit her hobby. You know, Robin's biggest interest in weekdays is reading books. Even if I joined the Straw Hat Pirates, I sat at the small wooden table on the deck all day, holding a book for a day. And this person's ability can turn everything of others into a book. She had never read this kind of book. For a time, Robin even started to daydream. When you get this ability, you must first turn someone into a book. Almost immediately, she set her sights on Lu Chen not far away. Of course she was very interested in this incomparably mysterious man. Just in time, Lu Chen also looked at her and raised his eyebrows slightly. You seem to be thinking about something bad, but I have to remind you that this ability is useless to me. Because of the abilities that the trainee acquires, he will also acquire them. So of course Heaven's Gate will not work for him. Shout. Robin puffed out a rare puff of cheeks. Lu Chen smiled. It seems that you agree with this template very much. Yes, Robin admitted generously. I think this ability is very suitable for me. 35. Lu Chen shrugged. ACBD, I'd better read it first, maybe, there will be something more exciting for you later. Although, even he himself felt that the ability of Heaven's Gate was too suitable for Robin. Roar. In the arena, the roar of the blood beasts rang out. But if you listen carefully, you can hear some unwillingness. It wants to attack the opponent, but at the last moment, it is always controlled by itself to stop. Even sometimes it is too late to pull back the force, even if it hurts itself, it has to be stopped forcibly. Such a strange fight, anyone who fights will be suffocated to death. The blood beast was grabbing the ground with its 4 claws at this time, as if venting its anger, constantly stroking the ground. One after another deep claw marks were caught by it. I said, you can't threaten me anymore. Kishibe Rohan shrugged and sighed. So, what should I do with you? After thinking about it, he waved again. The dwarf white double reappeared on the head of the blood beast. Ying-Ying's white light flashed, and a blood-colored ancient book fell from the air. Kishibe Rohan reached out and took it. It seems that this is the only way to do it. He opened the blood book, and then directly reached out and tore the pages from it. Tear. In less than a minute, he tore up the entire blood book, closed it, and threw it out again. Roar. With an extremely angry roar, the huge blood beast appeared again. But this time, Kishibe Rohan stepped forward and grabbed one of the blood beast's paws. Then, gently mention it. A very strange scene appeared. As an ordinary person, Kishibe Rohan, as if carrying a chicken, lifted the blood beast's claws directly into the air. It seems that what he is holding in his hand is not a ferocious and terrifying blood beast, but a balloon with empty skin. Roar. The blood beast struggled and waved its limbs, but it seemed extremely weak. Not to mention the strong wind, even the dust on the ground does not move. Everyone in the audience was dumbfounded. In the blink of an eye, this ordinary person lifted the blood beast comparable to a giant whale with one hand. Robin's eyes flickered. Is it because he tore up the book? As Lu Chen said before, when the page is torn, the strength and weight of the corresponding person will decrease, but the appearance will not change. That's right, Lu Chen nodded and said, this is the power of Heaven's Gate. Unreasonable and ignoring the laws of physics. Even in the world where Kishibe Rohan belongs, this stand-in's ability is enough to rank in the top 10. This is a bug-like ability. Will a training plan for this ability be difficult? Zoro asked suddenly with a frown. These powerful abilities all have one thing in common, that is, they are difficult to obtain. Chen pondered for a while, and then said, if it's just the master's stand-in, it's not particularly troublesome. Because of the stand-in messenger, its prototype is transformed from a power called Ripple. Robin can first train to obtain ripples, and then awaken the stand-in. As for the ability, it depends on the subsequent training and development. The ability of a stand-in messenger cannot reach its peak from the beginning. This is the same as Devil Fruit, which requires users to continue to be skilled and developed. A certain Killer Queen even developed the bomb ability to look back in time. I see, Zoro nodded. Just then, in the arena, Kishibe Rohan has already started to smash the blood beast to the ground continuously, and the Heaven's Gate stand-in is also helping. No deafening noises. There is only a slight rustling sound similar to the falling of foam. After all, the blood beast at this time is so light that a gust of wind can blow it away. Your life force is too strong, isn't it? Kishibe Rohan said helplessly, finally it's over. No way, although his stand-in is powerful. But in terms of attributes, it is an out-and-out cheat. The frontal combat ability can be said to be the last of all the stand-in messengers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the picture in the arena stagnated. Chapter 100 Tamamome is here. The real Shinsuke magician. Suffocating exaggerated values. This battle is one of the most bizarre battles that everyone has seen recently. It can be said that there is no normal battle. There was not a drop of blood from the beginning to the end, and there was no weapon slashing, gun shooting, or fisting attack. Even the literary youth named Kishibe Rohan didn't move much from the beginning. It wasn't until the picture came to a standstill that everyone reacted. Usopp rubbed his nose and said, if this guy were put in the dojo, what level of opponent would he be? Zoro was also silent for a moment. Perhaps, it can't be ranked at all. Although this stand-in ability named Heaven's Gate seems inexplicable. But the users themselves are just ordinary people. Such existence, it is difficult to specifically locate it as a certain level. That's right, Chen on the side nodded and said, I didn't list them as challenging targets for the dojo trials. Because fighting them, the uncertainty is too high. For some stand-ins, if they don't understand their abilities, anyone who matches them may suffer a big loss. But if you understand it, maybe even ordinary people can kill its users. Nami also said, I think this ability should be very suitable for Robin. Sanji nodded in agreement, I think so too. Because Robin's identity is an archaeologist. They are not full-time combat personnel. Wait, Nami suddenly turned to look at Luffy not far away. Why is your pirate group structure so strange? Huh, Luffy scratched his head, confused. Nami snapped his fingers and said, look, trainers, navigators, archaeologists, cooks, even pets. At the end, she pointed to Chopper. In this way, wouldn't there be only 2 or 3 combatants? As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Come to think of it, does it seem to be true? All that was left was Captain Luffy, the combatant Zoro, and the sniper Usopp. Serious combatant. That's just Zoro. In fact, the main reason is that there are too few people. You know, other pirate groups are hundreds of thousands of people. Aside from a few navigators and the like, the rest are all combatants. Only Chopper's reaction was fierce, waving his hands in protest. Hey. I'm a ship doctor. Ship doctor. It's not a pet. 99. Luffy scratched his head and smiled. Actually, I also want to hire some boatmen, helmsmen, musicians and so on. Nami covered his forehead. Obviously, their captain didn't think about this at all. At this moment, Chen turned to look at Robin beside him. Looks like, I shouldn't have to ask you how you feel. She looked at the arena now with extremely hot eyes. It's like reading an ancient book that you've never read before. Robin stroked his long hair, smiled slightly, and admitted, yes, I like this ability very much. Then, let's start the next one. Chen smiled lightly and snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the screen in the arena suddenly reset. A new figure appeared out of thin air. Interestingly, when this figure appeared, the first person in the crowd to react was Sanji. I saw him take a step, and his whole body was stuck on the railing of the auditorium, the pink hearts in his eyes almost jumped out, and there was even saliva dripping from the corners of his mouth. Hey, what a beautiful lady. Hee hee. The whole person fell directly into a complete nympho. It was a slim and attractive figure. Blonde hair, white face, 9 soft tails stretched out in the air behind him. The red lips were like fire, and the pale golden eyes added a bit of nobility to her. A white gauze covered the body, and a string of gold ornaments hung on it. As soon as he appeared, an inexplicable majesty spread out. Even if the picture is still, everyone can feel its terrifying aura. In front of Yuzhao, Chen said, the god of 9 tails, the pseudo-deification of the sun. It's a member of the Caster magic agency in the Fate world. It is the root of Caster that has existed since the distant past. This one is not the familiar pink-haired, Tamazao Mei, wearing a blue witch costume. Strictly speaking, that pink hair can only be regarded as one of the 8 tails rebuilt by the real Tamamo before. And the golden-haired and white-faced, Tamazao in front of him is a complete body with 9 complete tails and a true godhead. Even, each of the 8 tails that he cultivated obtained his own divine status and turned into a separate heroic spirit existence. I know that world, Usopp said quickly. When I chose power before, those templates were all from the Fate world. 99. Zoro and others also nodded, and they were also present to watch. I am still very impressed with the characters who appeared on the stage, such as Jin Shining. That's right, Lu Chen nodded and said, the heroic spirits in the Fate world all have corresponding positions. 35. I'll give you an example, and you'll understand how powerful this, Tamazao Mei, is. Suppose the ability value of an A-rank heroic spirit servant is 100. The value of caster of one tail is 9, and when caster is in the state of 9 tails, its value is not the sum of 9 nines but the product of 9 9s, that is, 9 to the 9th power. 99. That is, more than 387.42 million. When this terrible number came out of Lu Chen's mouth, everyone fell into silence. If you heard it right, what Lu Chen just said was more than 300 million. And an ordinary A-rank heroic spirit is 100. Is this the real god? Lu Chen's own expression was full of emotion. What a joke, this one has killed hundreds of servants by himself. Even Karna, who is the crown, has admitted that Tamamo Mei is above him. Gollum, I don't know who it was, but couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva, breaking the silence. Chopper's voice trembled slightly. Is this over spec? Even Sanji, the peach heart in his eyes restrained a little. This lady, she is so beautiful, but she is too strong. He even suspected that if he went up to chat with him, he would probably be photographed underground by one tail. Wait, being slapped by those tails doesn't seem to be impossible. Sanji's expression became weird again. Bam! With a muffled sound, Sanji fell to the ground. Nami put away his fist with a black line on his face. Can't you be serious? You always lead us astray. Zoro on the side tightened the handle of the knife in his hand, frowning slightly. Faced with this kind of existence, I'm afraid it will be difficult to even draw the knife. Just by suppressing the breath from the gods, more than 90% of swordsmen can't even draw their swords. 0. Ask for flowers. All in all, Lu Chen shrugged, this is a real heroic spirit of God. 9. Then let's begin. 35. Saying that, he snapped his fingers. The next moment, the time that was suspended in the arena began to pass again. Roar. In the roar, overwhelming blood swelled up, shrouding the entire arena in blood. The huge body of the blood beast took shape in midair, casting shadows. When it hit the ground, an aura of brutality and ferocity to ultimate suddenly swept up. As if its existence itself represents the word, kill. Oh, the blonde-haired Tamamo Qian grabbed a jade folding fan at some point, unfolded it gently, and covered the lower half of his face. Only a pair of pale golden pupils were revealed, with a smile in their eyes. She stood elegantly in the same place, the 9 fox tails behind her swayed gently, and her mature voice carried an inexplicable charm. What a cute kitty. Roar. The blood beast's body was slightly lowered, and a low roar came from its throat. It seemed to feel some kind of terrifying threat. Oh, the natural beast instinct is constantly warning. The limbs gripped tightly into the ground, and some uneasy swaying of the earth and rocks. Haha, Yu Zhaoqin chuckled lightly and lay back lazily. The air seemed to turn into a soft bed in an instant, holding her firmly in midair. Little cat, are you going to shoot me? Tamao was lying on his side in front of him, the jade folding fan was lightly touching his chin, and his eyes were playful. Speaking of which, I'm not very good at fighting. The blood beast opposite finally started to act. It slowly stepped out its claws, like a cat, moving gently on the ground without making any sound, and its movements were very agile. It's like looking for the best position to kill with one hit. Sudden, saw, the sound of breaking through the air resounded. The blood-colored shadow swept through the air, like a huge shadow passing through, coming to ultimate. The blood beast opened its ferocious huge mouth and bit towards the small figure. A strong wind full of blood was blowing. The expression in front of Tamamo didn't change at all, and he gently waved the folding fan in his hand. In the air, a dense golden energy wall unfolded, with a thin layer, as if it could be pierced with a finger. Boom. Year. The extremely dull collision sound resounded through the arena. The blood beast froze in midair as if it had hit a big mountain made of steel. Kick, kick, kick. 35. It shook its head, and its limbs kept retreating, as if it had been knocked out. It's really interesting. Yu Zhao's eyes became a little more serious, the pale gold in his pupils was slightly bright, and he stared at the huge blood beast opposite. No wonder you dare to shoot at me, I have seen it, your mind is full of the desire to kill. 99. A product of someone who made it. Saying that, her jade hand grabbed lightly in the air. A black stone appeared out of thin air in her palm. Let's try it, said Tamamo before throwing the stone. The stone floated into the air, and a series of obscure incantations suddenly appeared on it.